Hello, everyone. You're listening to the Small Business Show. I'm your host, 𝐓𝐢𝐲𝐽, the promo guy. Today, we have our guest is 𝐓𝐡𝐢𝐲𝐽. He's also known as the CEO of Confidant. He's a business influencer, LinkedIn strategist, international TV host, public speaker, CEO consultant, board member, and philanthropist. How are you doing, Angel?
Thank you. Thank you very much for the introduction. I'm doing great. Thank you for having me today. And obviously, everybody who's watching us, thank you.
You have a very impressive resume. Would you please tell us a little bit more about what you do and what are some of the conversations that you have had with the CEO that you're consulting right now?
Yeah, absolutely. So, well, basically, I'm originally from close to Barcelona in Spain. I've lived in Texas now for 10 years. Before that, I lived in Latin America. And before that, obviously, in Europe, in different places in Europe. And basically, what I do, it's two like very different things. One with my consulting business, my CEO business. I help both corporate CEOs and established entrepreneurs to bridge the gap globally for expansion and exposure as a way to accelerate the growth of their businesses. And I'm able to do that because throughout my corporate career, I left corporate America in 2016. I had helped more than 1,500 CEOs to grow their businesses in more than 33 countries. I was blessed with having my, parents put me through, several language education when I was a kid. So I have been able to use extensively my knowledge of foreign languages in order to be able to create those trustworthy relationships with so many executives all over the world. And at the same time, by living so many years in Latin America, I was able to see a lot of poverty. So in 2017, I was able to launch, along with a couple of friends, to launch the Wisdom for Kids Foundation. And what we do is we basically help underprivileged kids in Latin America become entrepreneurs using their local resources. And we have helped more than 1,000 kids so far. So that's in a nutshell who 𝐓𝐡𝐢𝐲𝐽 and the CEO of Confidant is, 𝐓𝐢𝐲𝐽.
Nice. Actually wanted to jump on to our first question. And I know that you're kind enough to post it on your LinkedIn and then your follower. I think the most people respond to is, pivoting in times of crisis. I read some of the comment that were on your share post, and some people don't think they're in crisis. Some people think that they are in a crisis and they have to pivot. Can you talk a little bit more about that? Like how? And my question to you would be, what would consider a crisis in a business, and how do you suggest we pivot from it?
Well, that's a great question. Let's say that the reason why I speak about crisis is because I have had to face myself either alone or, with the different corporations I was working with, times of crisis. I mean, crisis is your business can be in crisis, but the market maybe not necessarily is in crisis, right? So let's make those two differences. So I think that we tend to take action when we see that the market is in crisis because lots of things start to change. We don't really know how to cope with it. There's uncertainty, and uncertainty, both in business and personally, generates a lot of, I would say, fear, bluntly, said fear. And that's basically what makes us start thinking, okay, so should we do something about that fear? Should we do something about that uncertainty? Crisis, again, typically, when I see that my clients are massively changing, it's when I interpret that that's a crisis. For the last 18 months, now it's June 2021. For the last 18 months, lots of things have happened in the market, but not every single industry has been in crisis. There's been a lot of industries that actually have really had a great time, the best time ever, and not necessarily only the healthcare sector or the health sector or the medical devices industry. But many different sectors have really had a great time, probably the best time ever in history, probably. So I would say that as an entrepreneur or even as a CEO of a corporation, I interpret the crisis when lots of different variables around me in my environment are starting to change, and I see that I have to do something. And in that environment, I remember year 2008, 2009, probably we all remember also what was going on in the world, right? Or in 2001 when, the Twin Towers happened. So you see that a lot of things are happening in the market, and you see that you have to change. And I have to say that actually it was a real blessing that we had this happen, just because we are obliged to start thinking what to change in order to serve our clients better. I personally think that regardless of how our industry was touched, I think that always keeping in mind the idea that we always have to change, that we always have the opportunity and the space to offer an additional product or service to our clients is going to be, it's actually a recipe for continuous success on our business, Swire.
Yeah, I would say so. Especially, agree with your comment that some company actually are doing the best of the year, and especially I know a consultants that normally he would travel around the country to do seminar to coach client. Now with Zoom, with everyone getting very comfortable in front of their camera, right in front of their computer station, she's actually hosting workshop virtually, and he doesn't have to travel. Right, he can have the content available for more people. I'm sure that you notice that too. Maybe you like flying, you like traveling, but then right now with consulting, you can actually be anywhere in the world and able to connect with basically anyone globally.
I couldn't agree more. I mean, I agree with you 100%. I love traveling. I love being on the road. I love, taking planes. I was one of those crazy guys, like taking 200 plus flights a year, right? And staying hundreds of nights in hotels. I'm that guy. I mean, I love that. But also at the same time, there's people that right now are in fear because they don't know how to actually develop business online. So there's the two sides, right? The people that right now they have perfectly adapted to the new situation, and I'm actually like saving, right, on their travel expenses. But there's other people that don't feel comfortable. So again, that's an opportunity for another type of coaches and maybe trainers and even consultants on how to make the most of your presence online in order to keep on generating business for your company. So as you see, it's always like, is your bottle half empty or half full, right? And I always believe that there's always an opportunity. And as far as you're able to read your market properly, I think that you will always be able to see what's the value that you can keep on adding to your clients. And it's the same with you. I mean, you are the promo guy, right? So I'm sure that through what was happening and going on in the world, you identify several things, several products, several services that you could yourself provide on top of what was already being provided by your company, correct? But you have to be listening. The thing is, you have to be listening. I mean, we might be stuck for a while, but then listen and take action.
I think one of the way, at least, if you putting me on the table is, I like to chat with my client. So finding out what happened in their industry. So I think that's one way to learn about, news from people that are actually purchasing from me. Another way that I like to look at when learning the trend is what my supplier, my vendors are sending me. So give you an example, I think it was in April, in March, we start noticing that, all of our clothing supplier are switching gears to make face masks. And I receive like 20, 30 emails every day with different supplier for doing the face mask. So we actually try and jump on the trend, and April is actually the best months that we have because we're able to see that trend, knowing that it's going to come in. So I would suggest, all the listener, listening, if you're, like Angel said, if you're stuck, talk to people in your industry, maybe talk to your supplier or talk to even competitor if they would take your call, and just ask them, what are you guys doing, and see if there's any trends. Maybe you need to not change your business entirely, maybe just to shift a little bit to the way that you conduct your business.
Exactly. It's funny how just a few minutes ago, I was actually coaching one of my clients in Europe. He's an entrepreneur, very smart, amazing individual, but still, the conversation went something like, I have so many different options. I know I could do this, I could do that, but in reality, you can actually, start like analyzing which of the opportunities in the market is better and what's going to be the best one for you to provide to people and what's the one that you're going to like the most to provide. But at the end of the day, the most important thing is that you take action. You see things going on around you, you take action, and then you see what happens. And it's easier and easier actually to grasp the intelligence from the market. You said it very well. You're only one call away from talking to all the stakeholders of your business, all of them. You mentioned different categories there, and just ask them, what do you think? What are you seeing? What are you seeing? What do you think is going to happen, 1 month down the road, or maybe 3 months or 6 months or 1 year, according to the, general, current state of affairs right now in the world? It's much easier than what we think, but we tend to be stuck. And again, that's a mindset thing, right? So I don't know what to do. What should I do? Talk to the people that you have already built relationships with, which is a ton of people. And you're not going to sell to them. I mean, you don't have to have a hard sell conversation. Just, hey, a chat. You said it, Swire. Just have a chat. How are things going? How are you? What are your clients, sharing with you? What do you see happening in the future? Just have that conversation, and that way you will gather the market intelligence that you need to keep moving forward with maybe a new product or a new service.
Yeah, another way that I do as an entrepreneur, and especially as a salesperson, is I normally will read magazines or blog that my ideal client will likely to be reading. So I'll notice not only to the articles, and I'll also watch out for what kind of ads people are putting. So I know that there are probably those type of company or the industry or service industries that are doing well. So I can see, as an entrepreneur, as a business person, can I shift to those category? Because obviously they're putting ads in there right now, or they're changing to those type of content right now. Is their industry shifting to those areas? So these are some of the questions that I ask myself all the time.
Yeah, and you touched upon something really important, which is what is your audience, right? What is your audience? For instance, for myself, as I serve corporate America and executives in corporate America, very often I go to those events in which the large consulting groups, the large consulting companies in the world, they present the surveys. I was just in the presentation of a survey from PricewaterhouseCoopers the other day, and it was about the global CEO survey. That's the community I serve. So around me, there were a lot of executives. I'm continuously being invited to those forums, right, to those networking events, in which I gather additional intelligence, which allows me to see exactly what's going on in the world. And with that information, I can not only feed my own business and maybe even think, am I going to be pivoting my services to serve that need, that this specific global survey, the global CEO survey in particular, all those findings of that survey, am I gonna pivot my own business, or am I gonna help my clients to pivot towards that? So again, it's a matter of knowing what your audience is and being always listening. Something that we don't do good very often is that we don't listen. We really don't listen. We are so stuck, and not only of taking action, as we said before, but stuck in our own lane. Isn't it crazy? I mean, we tend to think that we have to keep on doing, but hey, if things are changing, how do I have to change? Maybe it's not only the content, maybe it's not only the service, it's also the delivery of the service. And we spoke about online versus, face-to-face or in person. So there's a lot of many different things. And that's why my favorite business mantra, as you probably know, is taking perfect action now. Taking perfect action now, because I think it really defines a lot what you can do. But more importantly, as soon as you go down that route, you will start seeing what works and what doesn't. And people get stuck and they don't want to walk it, really. They want to stay at their comfort zone until things maybe get so wrong or so bad that it's too late. So, take your perfect action and listen to what happens around you whenever you take that decision of taking a new route.
I love that. And I actually, I think reading your bio and then, knowing that you spoke 5 languages, and I know how you feel about this topic, expanding globally. So, can you talk to us a little bit more about that? I think, is
Absolutely.
it only for large business, or at what point would you recommend a client or a CEO to think globally?
That's a great question, because obviously I was working in corporate America and I was working for, let's say large corporations, and, I was always working internationally. So I was instrumental to the expansion of those corporations. But at the same time, I was always building or helping entrepreneurs, because we had what is called in the sales environment like indirect sales models, which means that I was creating distribution channels. So I was consistently identifying small companies, small businesses, or mid-sized businesses that could be our distributors in those particular areas. So what I'm trying to say is I would personally be involved in conversations, not only with my large corporation about how to expand internationally, but also with the small companies on how to expand internationally, because we would offer those small distributors to actually expand internationally. Very often, if you're an entrepreneur and you already have that, that your business in a place where it's thriving, it's generating revenue, you're living comfortably. I am 100% sure that someone at some point has come to you and said, you should take your business globally. You should take your business globally. That happens, Swire. That happens. And when I have this conversation, they say, yes, absolutely. There was this friend of mine, there was this support, there was this company that they told me that I should take my business globally. So when are you ready to take your business globally? Well, the most important thing is, I mean, do you have the financial, cushion to do this? Because it's not only like funding your clients, but it's also like there's tax issues or tax aspects of it that we talk about, HR, we're talking about legalities, and all those things are part of your expanding internationally. There are very soft ways to expand internationally that don't require, let's say, a lot of investment from your side. It can be done, depending on the services or products that you are actually offering to your clients. Your international expansion can be like very, very, very like economical or financially viable. But that's the first thing that we have to do. We have to say, okay, so this is what you have. I would like to take my business global. Let's pick a specific area, and obviously we can help that company to do that, to decide what's the area. Do your products or services have to be customized? How? Do they have to be like translated? Do we have to find local partners, local distributors or resellers to do that? There's a lot of many different routes that we can go, and I wouldn't say there's not only like a black or white answer. It always depends on the services, on the industry, on the stage of the business, and on the financials of that company at that point in time. But I have to tell you something. There's always going to be clients for you. There's always to be clients. Very often, some companies are saying, oh, but who's going to buy this? I mean, I do this here. I'm very successful, but it's so local. Why don't you ask yourself a different question? What do I have to do to keep on making money out of my current intellectual property, but in other areas? So the question is completely different. You already have an IP, right? It can be your products, it can be your distribution, it can be your services. How do I make additional money instead of only focusing on my backyard? We become very complacent. Don't you become complacent, Swire? Of course we do. With our existing clients, we keep on offering them the same kind of service or products. But at the end of the day, we know that there might be other opportunities in other areas. And every single geography is different. You mentioned before, in April last year, I started to have these, 20, 25, offers on my email. What about maybe using those same offers, but to other geographies? Maybe you could have expanded, you could have exported those products to other areas, and you could have made probably, knowing your intelligence about this market, knowing this, being savvy about this product and about this market, maybe you can go to a new market and start making offers to different people that were going to buy them. So it's not as complicated as it sounds, as far as you have a process in place and you have a plan in place. And that's what we do.
Yeah, I like the example, especially I think, especially a small business, they will think that, we're a local business, what we have is very niche, and, probably no one outside of our area would like that. I like to put a good example, right? Think about let's say if you're in the music industry in Korea, for example, there's a boy group called BTS. So they could have stayed in Korea and then, be popular. But what they're doing, they actually expand globally. They're everywhere right now. They're, one of the most popular band here in globally. So they don't even speak English. Only one member speaks English. So like the language barrier, it's gone. So everywhere you go, every endorsement that they do right now, think about how much more commerce that they do. It goes beyond the music. So the team that is behind the group is doing a phenomenal job. They can go anywhere right now, and then they will just pack the stadium. As many seats you have available, it's packed. So think about an example like that. They could stay in Korea, but then they actually look at what's around the world, and then they expand. And this is a perfect example, in a big way, that how you might think you're weird, you're small, but then maybe somewhere in the world there are people who are drawn to your weirdness, or just that you're unique of your product.
Exactly, because that's when when I talk to entrepreneurs that are just starting, and I do that very often with the startups, something that happens very often is they get like, again, entrenched in this like competitive analysis. And I dare you, Swire, like 10 people like you, like even offering the same niche product, they can be successful in the market. And you still are going to make a lot of money. And the rest can also make a lot of money. What I'm trying to say is all of us, just being who we are going to attract a different audience. And we could even be doing the same thing. We're going to attract a different audience. People will resonate with Swire and maybe they don't resonate with me just because of who I am or who he is. And that's always going to be the case. Always going to be the case. There's always going to be a market for you. Always. And if you go to the market and you try hard enough, you will see if maybe you have to tweak your strategy a little bit. But I see that so often that people just stop their business or just change, like deliberately the line of products or services they're providing before trying enough, before even listening to the market. I remember when I was, training, I had a large sales force myself. I was training a lot of salespeople, and I remember in the initial conversations, people, new salespeople were always be afraid of leads, right? What if I run out of leads? What if I run out of leads? And I would always tell, well, if you run out of leads or your manager is not able to give you more leads, guess what? I'm going to give you another 1,000 leads, or I will tell you like 10 more sources of leads for your business, right? So again, are you asking yourself the right questions? Or are you coming from a mind of a scarcity or of abundance? There's always new ways to find leads. There's always new sources, and right now, guess what? You mentioned it before, online. Before, if I wanted to go to an executive event of a particular, profile of people, very often there were some, invites, and it was not that easy to get into those events. Guess what? Most of them right now are for free. Everybody can access them, or it's much easier to access them, and you get to have the same knowledge. You don't have the same kind of relationship with everybody, I agree, but you still have access to these networking events. And there's many more. I mean, just go to LinkedIn, right? You mentioned LinkedIn before, where I spend a lot of my time, and my team does too. Go to LinkedIn. How many thousands and thousands of events from which you can learn so many things about your future or existing market? Oh my God, it's overwhelming. I mean, who doesn't really know about what their market is like right now is because they don't want to, because they are looking at the wrong place, right? It's amazing. What a blessing. I mean, obviously, with all due respect, to everybody, I always see the world in terms of opportunities and blessings, and we definitely are surrounded by blessings right now, Swire.
Yeah, and you touched on that, and I do wanted to get your take on that. About conscious leadership in time of adversity. So, tell us more about that. And I think you're right, and you could be I would use the word weird because I'm weird in a lot of ways, but some people do connect with me better than other salespeople. So, and I'm fine with that. Maybe I don't do a certain thing, and I don't be and look in a certain way that other people do, but then comfortable with what I am, the way I talk, the way that I write, the way I present. And there are customer that like that. There are customers who don't like that. And took me a lot of time, but then I'm getting more accepted, and there are people that are your customer. There are people who might not be your customer forever.
Very often people ask me, hey, what do you think, how to approach, or what are those three things or four things or, X number of things that we should know about approaching CEOs. And one of the first things always on my list, you know what it is? They are always looking for unconventional knowledge. Always. And they really value unconventional knowledge. And I think that's really important. You call it to be weird. Actually, if any of my 3 kids would be here, they would tell you how weird I am in many different areas of our lives, right? That's a different story. But what I'm trying to say is I've always been in my life looking for unconventional knowledge and doing unconventional stuff. And the same as you. Maybe I don't resonate, or everybody doesn't resonate with me, but I'm fine with it, because you know what? Looking for unconventional knowledge, I have been able to serve my clients better. And that's what I want to keep on doing. The other day, I was looking at one of those, actually that PricewaterhouseCoopers Global CEO Survey, right? Global CEO Survey. And I was reading about what's the number one concern about corporate CEOs today. So one of the most important concerns, you know what it is? How to help their teams upskill. And there was like 76% of, I think it was 76% of CEOs said that. So right now, CEOs are really, thinking about what are the skills I have to give my teams so they will be able to develop themselves and their careers and keep on providing value to the market. From our company, what are those skills that I should give them to be able to face uncertainty? Just knowing that piece of information, what is that telling you? What can you do? Let's say you are an entrepreneur and you're providing services to corporate America. You're a trainer or, an educator, or you are a consultant, or you are a coach. How many things can you do? And then knowing that this is a concern, I think this is a very nice trend, because you mentioned here you actually label here like conscious leadership, because I believe that really shows that right now conscious leaders leaders in the corporate world, they are more and more conscious about caring for their teams. I believe that in the future, you're going to be a conscious leader or you will not be a leader anymore. Because people have more and more and more and more choices. I am receiving every single day, I'm very active on LinkedIn, but I get so many emails from recruiters. There's a big, massive fight for talent right now. Big, massive fight for talent. And guess what? The disengagement of the workforce in the US is not improving. So what's going to happen? People that have been for a few months maybe testing the waters, and they're right now working at home, maybe some of them decide not to work for that corporation any longer. So the fight for talent is going to increase. That's why I'm saying I have no doubt that conscious leadership is something that every single CEO should know or should have in their agenda. They should be right now thinking about, how do I become a better leader? How do I become a conscious leader? How do I profoundly and wholeheartedly start caring about my team in a systematic way? So we change the organization, and we are really ready to fight, this war, this battle for talent in a much better position. We retain the existing talent, but we also keep on attracting the best talent. That's a very important thing. So everybody out there, just take this into consideration when you're starting to think about pivoting.
Yeah, I love that. And I think the last question that I will ask you, and you'll be the perfect person to ask, and how do we become a business influencer? And I wanted to narrow it down a little bit to talk about on LinkedIn, because as a business professional, we know that LinkedIn will be the platform that we should hang out most and spend most of our time on. We could learn about a prospect, a supplier, or an industry. And you have a lot of followers, and everything that you said and post, and people actually engage with that. How does one take to become at your level, or at least half as good as what you do?
Well, thank you, obviously, for your comments. You are right, and that's a blessing that my let's say my career, but has put me through. Thank God. But I would say number one, being intentional. In 2016, when I left corporate America, I made it an intention. I wanted to become an influencer, a business influencer. And from a few hundred, connections, right now I have many more connections, but it's not about the number of connections. It's what you do with those connections. It's how warm those connections are. How do you nurture those connections? And if you, as you said very well, there's months, obviously I have an editorial calendar and I post on every single media outlet, but mostly on LinkedIn. And I'm very cautious about what I post. And I'm sure I know what people are going through. So every single day that I post something that it can be maybe something really like personal related, and not about me, but about them. What are they going through? Or what's going to happen this week that might be relevant for their lives. And I want to make a comment about this. And I want to comment about this particular, initiative or activity or date, which is important for them. So you have to understand that influence is a game. Influence is a game, okay? Influence is a game. So you have to play the game. And you have to play the game very humbly, okay? In order to start playing the game of influence, you actually have to, give influence to people that have more influence than you. I'm going to repeat this. You have to give influence to the people that have more influence than you. And then they will return the favor to you. So are you doing that? Are you actually, commenting on the most or people that are more influential than you on the feed? I obviously use LinkedIn because it's a big, massive search tool where professionals go and meet for different reasons. Finding clients, finding jobs, it depends. But go there. Are you giving influence? Are you commenting? Are you liking? Are you sharing? So that's the number one step. Number two, the content that you share. Don't only share content about what your expertise, what you're a thought leader of. Also comment on things that relate to the personal lives of the people you're trying to serve. Number three, I'm not a hard selling person. Okay, so I will never call Swire and tell him, hey, I would like you to coach you, and you have no other place to go, and you have to hire me, and this is why, and this is how much it costs, and this is the scope, and then please send me your check. That's not me. I believe in creating long-lasting relationships on LinkedIn, through email, through all the social media outlets. And that's done over time. If you want to rush it, you're going to make mistakes. I'm fine with making mistakes, but the game of influence takes time. I really commend you to generate relationships and to make sure that you keep on creating those relationships. I mean, I'm blessed with having a team, but I would say that you genuinely engage with your connections on LinkedIn on a similar level than being on a networking event. Okay, so if you think, for instance, the other day one of my clients had a cybersecurity news that they wanted to share. So I reached out to all my chief technology officers and chief information officers of my network, because that makes sense. And there were actually 50 plus that said, oh, thank you for sharing, that was good. And again, that wasn't solicited, but I wasn't pitching them for anything. So I keep on building that relationship all the time. And finally, I'm always looking for unconventional knowledge, always. So if you provide real value through your content, both personally and professionally to your network, you will become that influencer that you always wanted to be, so that you grab attention and people will come to your content and comment on that content. I think that's a pretty safe route, Swire, to become a business influencer.
Yeah, I like that, because, we like to learn information about ourselves, right? So at the deep down, we're all selfish with our interests and our business, right? So if we can find a person or a company that always providing the information that we want to read, then we will follow that person or the company, instead of someone who always trying to sell us. And we can tell right away, consumers are smart. When they see an ad, they know an ad right away, and I skip, right? But then if you are looking for information and you trust that person, you develop the trust, then I would tune in every day. I'll learn from the person every day.
And one of the things that my audience tells me more often is, your content is refreshing. Your content is refreshing. I go there and I know that I can have my mind somewhere else. I mean, it's a great way to tell you, I will consistently go to your feed and react and read what you're posting, even if it's not business related. Of course, I do business related posts because I want to still share some areas which I think are relevant for my audience. But still, just be a person, be yourself, be authentic. Don't pretend to be anybody else. Be yourself. Whatever feels right for you to post, just post it and forget about the consequences. No, honestly, just be yourself and go online. I mean, don't even believe what I'm telling you. Just go to the most visited posts on your feed on LinkedIn, and you will see what they're doing. The kind of content, the kind of media, you will see. Judge by yourself, Swire.
Yeah, I love that. Well, you got to obviously spend time onto it too. I would suggest, follow Angel, right? That's the number one thing to do. And then follow other people that you think are famous or influencer in the industry. Look at what they're doing. Is there something that you can do and develop your own twist, your own personality to put it on there? So, you could tell the same content in different ways, and maybe you develop your own voice that people will follow and listen to.
Absolutely, I agree. And again, it's a matter. This builds up. I mean, building relationships is building relationships. It takes time, and you have to be persistent, right? So, don't care as much about the number as for the quality of the relationships that you are developing. and interact with them. It's very, I mean, there's so much that you can know about every single person on LinkedIn. Just knowing most of the people don't post, don't create their own content. Most of the people just react to other content. Just by seeing what the others react onto, you will already have a lot of market intelligence for you to decide how to approach someone. There's even software, there's artificial intelligence software available right now that according to the words that you use on your LinkedIn profile, they are telling you how to actually write to that person to generate attention.
Wow.
Everything is available right now, everything. So if you don't do a better job, it's just because you didn't do your search. You didn't do your research, excuse me. So
yeah, and I think one trick that I learned, not trick, but one thing that I do, right, is I do put some of my interests and hobbies onto my LinkedIn bio. And I'm a certified kettlebell instructor. I actually put that because I'm proud on my LinkedIn profile. Every single time a client or business contact that I met on LinkedIn contact me, they ask me about that. They could have asked me a lot of other things that I put on there, but then they go there. So I think if you have a special achievement or if you have a special interest hobby, you can actually relate to those type of group of people better that are also business professionals themselves on LinkedIn.
Absolutely. Yeah. It's much easier. Again, we're talking about about personal relationships, because at the end of the day, even if you are a B2B person, business to business person, still you will have to develop a relationship with someone that will open you the door to that particular company, right? So it's always person to person all the time, no matter what.
Okay, great. So Angel, I wanted to thank you for all the information. And if listener wanted to find out more about what you do, what would be the best way?
Absolutely. The easiest way is to actually send me an email. I'm going to spell my email very easy: Angel, ANGEL, at angelribo.com. Ribo is my last name, 4 letters, RIB as in boy, O.com. So it's angel at angelribo.com. That's the easiest way. Either my team or myself, we always answer all the emails. Second, go to LinkedIn. Angel Ribo, my brand is the CEO Confidant. And either my team or myself, we are all day long on LinkedIn, interacting, answering emails. As you know, Swire knows this. And really, I like to share good content. I like to share good stories and to basically be myself and keep on building those relationships with the people around me. You will also find me on Twitter, Instagram, Facebook, but definitely LinkedIn is my stronghold, if I could call it like that.
Thank you so much, Angel, for coming on today. Really enjoyed the conversation.
The pleasure has been mine. Thank you, Swire, for having me, and obviously thank you everybody who's been listening to us today.
Hello. My name is April Malone with Yes, I Work From Home, and this is the podcast. Today I have a special guest, Angel Ribo from just north of Dallas in Plano, Texas. He's originally from Spain, and he is the CEO Confidant. Go ahead, Angel. Why don't you just tell us your story and how did you get to now?
Thank you. Well, thank you very much for having me, April. It's a pleasure to be here, and thank you everybody who's listening to us today for being with us. I was born in Spain, and I would say that probably one of the reasons why I ended up in Texas in the US is because I started learning foreign languages very early on in my life. It was in 4th grade where I was given the chance. At that time, in the region of Spain where I was born, it's called Catalonia. It's in the northeast where Barcelona is. I was French was the language that was being taught in school, and it was really tough. So we really learned a lot of French starting in 4th grade. But at the same time, my father, my mom, and my dad, they said, "We want you to learn English at the same time. So we're going to put you outside school after hours. We're going to put you, as an extracurricular activity to learn English." So I really enjoyed it, both languages. But when I was starting, I think it was my 9th grade. Actually, that summer, my mom and dad actually paid my sister and myself a summer to go to the UK to actually learn more and more English. And that was really a turning point in my life, because I went from having to, when you're speaking a foreign language, but you have to translate everything with your mind. Mm-hmm. After that summer, actually, I stopped literally to translate. I was just speaking in English. And that was really a defining, exactly. It was a defining moment in my life because I felt so powerful. I remember, after that summer abroad in Great Britain, in Scarborough, to be more precise, in the northeast of England. I actually remember going back to my, private school I was still, engaged with. And I remember going to the same class with the same students, and they would say, "Wow, Angel, this is something. I mean, you speak really fast now." And obviously I had improved my vocabulary. And that was probably, now that we are talking about entrepreneur and working from home and entrepreneurship and these kind of things, I forced myself during that summer, because I went there and my sister went there at the same time, the same school. And also my cousin went there, the same school, the same summer. But I said, I don't want to be in the same family as my cousin or as my sister. I want to be in a family where there's nobody from Spain. It's very common in Spain to go for the summer to England. I said, no. I want to be with a family. Well, everybody stayed with a family, so we improved our English. I want to be with a family that actually, and if there's another student in the house, please make sure they're not, or that person is not from Spain. And it really happened. I actually shared the room with a Swedish guy.
Mm-hmm.
And it was really a great summer, and I was hanging out with mostly Nordic, boys and girls for the entire summer. I barely saw my sister and my cousin during the summer, but this small effort I put for those 30 days of not understanding anything, not being able to speak, being by myself, putting myself into that position allowed me to then make a quantum leap jump, literally a quantum leap jump onto my English skills. And I think as entrepreneurs, we should do that more often. And as you probably have read on my bio, one of my favorite business mantras, if not my most favorite business mantras that I use, I created it and I use both with my entrepreneurial clients and with my CEOs, is take imperfect action now.
Yeah.
There's small things that you can do, but you really don't anticipate the consequences of doing that. And that summer was really a big, massive example of that. And, fast forward, I ended up, learning obviously much more English. And then my first job was an international job. When I was in college, before my first job, I was the president of an international students association. So, everything was about international. So eventually, in the 90s, I left Spain. I went to the UK to work and to live. And early 2000s, I actually moved to Latin America to live, to Mexico City and to Mexico to live and to work. And then 10 years ago, almost 11 years ago, I moved from Mexico to here in Plano, north of Dallas. So, and I've always been, working with, or I had always been until 2016 when I became my own boss. I had always worked with large corporations, multinational corporations, large teams, multi-languages, and basically, selling products and services that were high ticket. So I always had to reach out to C-level executives to sell them, because they were the only ones that had the decision power, the only ones that had the sign-off power to sign the purchase orders and the checks and all these kind of things. So that's why I ended up, when I started my own career, my own journey as the CEO Confidant, I called myself the CEO Confidant, because in the last 20 plus years, I have held more than 23 years already, more than 1,500 CEOs to accelerate the growth of their businesses. That's why when I started my own journey, I decided to use that brand, the CEO Confidant, as you very well said in the beginning of the conversation, April.
Right. Okay. So, wow, a lot going on here. When your cousin and your sister went to the UK at the same time, did they stay together, or did they also get put into other houses?
That's a great question. Actually, they were in the same house, but I chose.
Mm-hmm.
Sorry, go
so
ahead.
Did they end up speaking in Spanish to each other in the house? Did they accelerate their English at the same rate?
No,
as you
let
did?
me take that back. No, now I was remembering. It's funny how obviously nobody has asked me this question before, but I remember now that my sister, she had a very young couple that were in their house. So she was hosted by a young couple. But my cousin was actually on someone else's house. It wasn't the same house.
Okay.
But they were meeting very often, and they were going to the same classroom in the school, because we would meet at the school, but we wouldn't really talk. Right? That was my decision. I'd rather stay with all those other students than to talk with my own family members. I mean, obviously we met from time to time, but I always tried to avoid them, just because I wanted to make sure I would speak English most of my time while being in the UK.
You're like, I'll see you for the rest of my life. This is a one-time in my lifetime opportunity. Yeah, I said that wrong, but you know what I meant.
Yeah, no, yeah, exactly. Yeah, I mean, I don't know. I mean, I'm a very, let's say, open to whatever the life brings to me, or the universe brings to me. And there have always been very great opportunities to me. So I just felt I had to do it. And the whole thing, I mean, it was really the first time ever I was living in someone else's house for more than one day.
Yeah. And
in a foreign country, and speaking a foreign language. And there was a family with 3 kids, a girl and 2 boys in that same family. And there was a Swedish guy who was my roommate. So it was a lot of changes. And also living in the UK and living in Spain, it's like 2 completely different stories in so many different senses. So it was a great experience, but it was a great experience.
And so you feel like that 9th grade experience really springboarded you into your future as far as the business decisions that you've made and the path that you took. Do you want to talk a little bit more about that?
Yes, because in the 90s, at the late 90s, I was still working in Spain, and I was having like not bad jobs, but I wasn't really using my full, let's say, language potential. I am a people's person, right? So I have always been like marketing, PR, sales, this business development. That's what I've done mostly through my entire life, and always having connections, always connecting with people, and talking to people, and trying to reach agreements with people, negotiating with people all my life. So I decided in at the late 90s, I think it was during 1998, that I wanted to leave Spain. And there wasn't an offer in one newspaper in Madrid. It was a job offer. And I said, okay, I'm going to apply for that offer. It was a nice company. Didn't know anything about the company, but it was a nice software company, American company based in London. And I applied for the job, and they flew me to Madrid for the interview, and I got the job. And only a few months, maybe 1 month or 2 months later, I was already there. I was already in the UK. So, and I never came back. And actually at that time, I even had a German girlfriend. We used to speak in English. I didn't learn that much German, but like my entire life was international. And I was, I was going to the headquarters of that company were in Massachusetts, in Boston, outside Boston. And I would go there for boot camps and for training sessions and for international conventions and international kickoff meetings, these kind of things. So yeah, that was definitely the starting point of my career as far as international, multinational, large corporations, because after that I worked for another one also. So, and because I haven't had this many jobs since I left Spain. I've always been like very loyal and very like working with, I typically do a good job, and I just follow instructions, but at the same time, I'm very creative. I like to use imagination and creativity all the time in my job, and try new things and try to do things better. So I've always enjoyed the jobs that I have done and the work I've done with those large corporations. And that was the company. Actually, in 2010, one of these large corporations offered me to come to the US. When I was in Mexico, they told me, hey, we would like you to be in the US so we can offer you different jobs. And only within a few months, that was in May, and in September, we were already here. And that was 10 years ago.
When you were in South America, were you using your bilingual skills, your trilingual skills as well? Or wait, how many languages do you speak? 5 or 6?
So when I was born, we speak language. We speak 2 languages. We speak Spanish and we speak Catalan, because that's the name of the place in Spain. That area in the northeast of Spain is called Catalonia. And then I learned English, I learned French, and then later on I learned Portuguese. Okay, so those are the languages I know how to speak. I'm able to understand a few words in other languages because I lived for 6 months in Finland, for instance, which is an amazing country. And I dated this German girl for 2 years, so I'm able to understand some German words. So for some reason, I've always been prone to learn and to understand and to like foreign languages. So if I move today to another country, I'm pretty sure that I will be able to learn the language of that country easily. It doesn't matter what country it is.
I don't think I could say the same thing for myself, but I have children who are at that young age, who are in a good time of their life to learn. And I have heard recently people say that it is a good plan to learn 2 languages at the same time. When your parents are like, you're going to learn French, let's go ahead and have you learn English at the same time. Actually, that's good for your brain development. Just go ahead and tackle them both at the same time. And that seems counterintuitive. I figured you should probably master one at a time, but no, it's good.
Yeah, it's good. It's good. It's good for the kids. And when we came here, our 3 kids had different ages. And it's funny how all 3 have different accents speaking the same language. So, for instance, one of our kids was like newborn. So she obviously speaks more English than Spanish. And she feels much more comfortable speaking in English than Spanish. 2 years older, he speaks both, but he speaks, but you can sense a little bit his Spanish accent. And then we have the other one that was when he came here, he was 10 years old. And then it's funny because he didn't know a word in English. And then he came here, and only within a year, he was not only able to speak and understand, obviously, everything in English, but also he was in the advanced program in English. So It's amazing, exactly. And actually, all my 3 kids have this easiness for languages, and for not only for speaking them, but for reading, for writing. They're all very good in writing and reading. And it's funny how probably that's one of the reasons, now that I think about it, that when they get these Texas state exams, they always get like the advanced level in English reading or writing, always. And it's funny how they get to this 90%, 90+% percentile, which is amazing, right? Because they are foreign, right? Isn't it amazing? Like they can be like 95% plus percentile for reading and writing English. And they can even do it better than people that were born. And so that definitely tells me that we as human beings, the more, as I said before, you don't know and you don't realize when that's happening. But if you put yourself through a hurdle, through something that makes you make an additional effort, you succeed, because human beings, I believe we are infinitely powerful. We really can achieve anything we want.
Well, I feel like when you learn a language as your first language, you absorb it. You just have heard it your whole life, and you say things because they just sound correct, without necessarily knowing why they sound correct. And when you learn a language as a second or third or fourth language, you've had to study the grammar more, especially if you're comparing, and changing the grammar from one to the other. So I feel like I've been teaching ESL, English as a second language, but obviously a lot of these people know multiple languages for 3.5 years. And I have definitely been very aware that some of my students are more articulate about being able to talk about, the grammatical differences and to explain better than I can. I can teach the idioms and the slang and let them know that there might have been another word they could have chosen to sound more native. But there are a lot of times that I've had to go back to my books and be like, I don't remember this concept. I need to look it up before I teach this class. So this has opened up doors for you as far as multinational corporations and working with multinational CEOs, CEOs of multinational companies. Exactly. Is that where you are comfortable now?
Well, yeah. Well, I work with both arenas, right? I work with large corporations and I work with entrepreneurs.
Okay.
right? So that's
Yep.
why I always say the same thing. You know, I've helped both corporate CEOs and established entrepreneurs to bridge the gap globally for expansion and exposure as a way to accelerate the growth of the businesses. So I have both, really literally both like types of clients that I work with now.
Yeah.
I'm comfortable with both of them because number one, I was really blessed because most of my time in large companies, large corporations, and I was I was working with not only with my own sales force, but I was working also with what is called in the world of sales, like indirect sales models, which means that there were distributors, there were resellers or there were partners that were selling along with us, but I had to train them. I had to help them, you know, become entrepreneurs. I literally was the trusted advisor of their company so that they could grow. So that allowed me to all the time. So I was selling from this large corporation I was an employee of. I was selling to large corporations, but I was also helping those intermediaries, right, to grow their businesses so they could help me more to sell to those corporations. So I was both at the same time selling to large companies and training and advising small companies to grow fast.
Okay.
So when I left corporate America, actually it was for me both I felt really comfortable both helping corporate America, like corporations, like businesses, and I was also very, very comfortable teaching entrepreneurs because I had done for a long time in my life. And it's funny how you don't realize this until you have to do it, right? When you have to do it, then, oh my God, I've done that so many times. So, and right now, just to give you an example, right now it's it's August already. Today is August 2nd. It's one of my kids' birthday, by the way. So today it's August 2nd, and it's the Dallas Startup Week. It's an initiative that happens every year. And they have these amazing entrepreneurs talking, and they're the investors, there's corporations. It's an incredible, week of events around entrepreneurship and around its startups, right? And there's a lot of people and a lot of institutions and companies involved. And I'm mentioning that to you because I'm very involved with the startup, movement here in the Dallas area. And I'm very often invited to some accelerators to give speeches, to be the jury of maybe one startup, weekend in which there are several startups pitching us, these kind of things. I'm very involved in the startup arena, very involved with small business owners that they want to accelerate the growth of the businesses. Actually, just 10 days ago, I gave a webinar, literally like the starting webinar to a group of startup CEOs that were handpicked here in the Dallas area. So I'm very involved in both worlds, and I work, and I really like to work in both of them.
So the in-person world as well as the virtual world.
Oh yeah. Besides that, yeah, absolutely. Yeah, because actually it's funny how everybody, I don't remember the dates, the data, but everybody was last year impressed about the number of users that Zoom had, right? But I started to use Zoom in 2016, and I remember how people were a little bit afraid of being on camera, but I've been in camera so much. And also remember one of the, when I speak about my bio, I have been hired many times by TV networks to conduct interviews. So I feel very comfortable speaking to the camera all the time. So although, I have 3 monitors here, I have a huge studio behind me here with cameras and microphones and fans and I mean, everything, you name it, just because I feel comfortable working from home. I feel comfortable interacting with my clients over, video conference softwares and these kind of things. It's just a skill as anything else, it's a skill. The more you do it, the more you learn it.
Oh yeah. So yeah, it sounds like you feel like you're very versatile. Like you can feel comfortable in many different kinds of settings with corporate, with entrepreneurs, in person.
Yep.
Were your corporate jobs in person? Were you in an office all those years, or were you doing a lot of remote work back then too?
That's a great question. It depended on where I was and what my role was. It really depended. So for the same company, for instance, for one of the companies, I was always in the office, but at the same time, my job was to travel all the time to meet clients, right? So I would be traveling and working from hotels and clients' premises, and then going back to the office, right? That was one of the options. For another company, for instance, first we will have an office, and I would go to the office, but then I was not living at the same town where the office was, so I was trying to be in the office once a week, maybe 1 day or 2 days, and the rest of the time I was again traveling to meet clients. And also, I remember changing roles in that company, and then I had a more office-based where they wanted us to be in the office again. So I think that also the same. I feel that corporations have also tried to test what's the way that their employees are more efficient. I guess they have their own ways to see how efficient a company is and their employees are. At the end of the day, for me, what I believe is that for me, employee engagement is much more important. It's much more important that if you work for me, you are really engaged and you really like what you do, and you do as much as you can, and you do it as you do as good of a job as possible. I think that, and that can happen both working from home and can happen, doing it face to face. It's the same with my kids last year, right? So we had the choice here in Plano to whether to go to the school or to stay at home, and we chose to go to school because we believe that social interaction is very important, and obviously you know that because you live that every single day, right? Yes. But even the year before, let's say the last part of 2019-2020 academic year, right? The last part that we had to stay at home was kind of rough, right? Because everybody, both teachers and students, were trying to adapt to the new situation. And also, as you know, there were a lot of issues with grading. And also last year, it wasn't the same if you went to the school that if you were at home. And here in Texas, a lot of parents have complained about the differences in grading, in the grading and the grades and the amount of knowledge. So I think that even as an SPC, I think that humans, we are still trying to figure out the best way to learn when you cannot be present. What's the best way to do it?
Well, it's not for everyone. I mean, there's not a one size fits all, because even that first year when we were home for those last 3 months, one of my daughters was thriving. My son he was more comfortable at school and less comfortable at home, or my daughter was more comfortable at home and less comfortable at school. And so they had a different experience, even though they were living the same life in the same home and, with the same amount of exposure to their friends. And then this past year, I have 3 children, and I think they all just had a completely different experience, even though we did the same thing every day. So same thing with working from home. What works, with that person who's in the office, they might be more productive or efficient there, and the next person might be more efficient at home. It might just be more of a preference thing or a personality thing.
Yes, and as you know, everybody, something that they didn't mention originally, one of the reasons why I left corporate America and I started my job in 2016 was also because I wanted to create my nonprofit. It's called Wisdom for Kids. Right. And we help underprivileged kids in Latin America become entrepreneurs using the local resources. When the 3 founders of Wisdom for Kids, we are all friends, but 2 of us are coming from the business world, and the third one comes from the academia. Okay, so comes from so he was teaching teachers for 50 years. So he's taught literally over 12,000 teachers throughout his life. He was a professor in a very well-known university in Mexico City, and he taught teachers, right? So he's a geographer, and he's an amazing individual. I'm telling you this because when we started our nonprofit, Wisdom for Kids, we said, okay, so if we want to teach entrepreneurship, how are we going to do it? And the first thing that we started to think is, okay, how do we kids learn? So when we go to those communities and we teach underprivileged kids, what's the best way that we can teach them? And as you know, every kid learns differently. And if we're talking about senses, for instance, there's people that are more visual, people that are more tactile, people that prefer sounds. There's different styles of learning. And we see that every time we go to Latin America to teach the kids entrepreneurship. So we had to come up with a way to teach the kids that would be the most effective way. Because, reaching out to impoverished communities is not always easy. So we wanted to make sure that when we were there, we were fully present there. What we did, the workshops that we would deliver would be the most effective possible. Okay, so we learned all about, how to teach them and how every single kid learns. So we actually, before we launched our foundation, the three founders, the one that was a professor in the school, in the university, he had 2 PhD students doing their thesis work on our workshops.
Wow.
Yeah, because we wanted to make sure that those workshops were going to be really effective. And we would use neuro-linguistic programming. We would use a lot of things. And actually something that I always, every time I'm on an interview, I try to suggest that to the teachers, the ones listening me or listening to me, or today I'm lucky that you are right here, right? It's like of our workshops, the most powerful moment of the workshop is actually a moment in which the kids don't do anything but just have their eyes closed. What they do is they meditate. Is by far the most powerful 20 minutes of the entire workshop is the meditation. We do a guided meditation with the kids. Okay, so we instruct them because they've never meditated before. So we instruct them on how to meditate, how to put their legs, their hands, where their ideas have to go, their brains, what they have to do with their thoughts. So we explain them how to do it, and then we meditate with them. And just that alone is life-changing.
Really?
It's life-changing. I would love to have every single school system in the world to have every single day the kids meditate for 20 minutes, 30 minutes, or maybe even like a 10-minute meditation in the morning and 10-minute meditation in the afternoon before they leave. Something like this, that would be so life-changing for you as teachers, and also for themselves and for their lives. Try to or learn how to be calm. That's a huge move in the right direction, because I think that the kids have to learn how to be, how to be with themselves, how to deal with their own thoughts, their own ideas, how to deal with the arguments that are going on at home, or the problems that they might have with their, classmates. There's so many things that can be solved just with staying silent and having some, guided meditations throughout the day. That would be, I wanted to share this with you because you're a teacher and you probably, obviously, you realize the power of meditating.
Yeah, I definitely have at different times of my life, tried some different modalities as far as even breathing exercises. I have noticed really can help calm me. I have some pretty active kids, and I think I have never tried that with them before. It would be a very interesting experiment to see how they handle it. And I think it's probably the sort of thing that you practice and you get more comfortable with too over time.
But when we deliver the workshops, it's the first time ever. So
Right.
they've never meditated before. So we were so gladly surprised how meditating is innate to them. I cannot explain it in any other way. Even in when we have groups of kids, and we can have groups of 5 kids, and we can have groups of 20 kids, right? When we go there, we have had experiences of all sorts of kids, of groups of kids. Even if you find these kids that they can't stop, the ones that they can't stop moving, and during the meditation, it's amazing how seeing everybody else, you have to guide them, right? You have to tell them, we're going to do this, and that's how we're going to do it. And you put all your materials out of reach, and you put your handbags. Well, it's not a problem in the school, but there it is. If they have a backpack, excuse me, whatever that is. It's amazing how the power of doing this in a group, everybody falls into meditating almost automatically. It's amazing. It's really magic. If you haven't tried, and obviously the main problem with us with let's say the schools is that you have to program that many times in the normal school system, right? You have to ask for permission. right? You have to, hey, we're going to do that. I'm going to do that because of this, because I think it's going to be beneficial for ESL students, whatever that is, right?
Mm-hmm.
But you have to ask for permission because it's an exception. It's like, you know, when you hear the national anthem, it's an amazing thing in the morning, right? It's an amazing thing. And for instance, I come from Spain, and we will never do that because that would be considered, even if we did that in Spain, you can't imagine the amount of people that would complain because we would play the national anthem every morning. But I consider that to be so powerful. Like every single day, you're encouraged by your country founders, but by what is behind your flag, but what is behind your anthem, right? And sometimes we don't value those kind of things. So it's the same kind of experience, you know. You don't realize the power of this until you do it. It's the same thing. It's the exact same
Did they
thing.
come out of the meditation and talk about it? Like, what is
Great
it
question.
that makes it so powerful for you?
Yeah, it's so powerful because we asked that. Well, number one, because we see over and over and over again that they are natural at meditating. We don't have to do so much. They go into a meditation state or a meditative state much easier than we thought. We thought that we would have to fight to have them like quiet. No, we thought we would have to fight, like to have them with like eyes closed for 20 minutes. No, they do it naturally, and they don't open the eyes. Maybe one opens the eyes, or maybe two. Again, it's then natural. Number two, when they finish meditating, we always ask them, hey, how was it? And as any other classroom, we ask them, okay, raise your hand, right? You know, it's like, and they're very respectful, and then some of them raise their hands, some others don't. But we have had so amazing experience. So some kids say, we were traveling. Some people say, you know, I was suddenly with some relatives that live abroad or live, you know, very far from here. Others just explain a nonsense story, you know, something that doesn't make sense, but it's a story that they had in their mind while they were meditating.
Like a dream.
A dream, exactly, like a dream. So some say that they were traveling very fast through space. So there's many different stories, and there's always a new story. Every time we have a new group, we know there's going to be a new story that day. There's going to be a story from a kid saying this, saying that about the meditation. And remember, it's a guided meditation. So we handpicked the affirmations. So we basically, the affirmations are, you know, neuro-linguistically programmed, but we tell them, you are infinitely powerful. You know, you are all, and we ask them to repeat them with their thoughts, right? So it's all about self-esteem, because obviously, remember, those kids are in trouble. They're impoverished, right? They're underprivileged. We don't know all the actual family facts of all the kids, but we can imagine in communities where there's not like abundance, as you can imagine, there's a lot of family, unstructured families. There's a lot of kids that live not with their next generation, but the two generations above them. Mm-hmm. You know what I mean? So there's a lot of lack of love and care and structure in their families. So our meditation, our affirmations are very related to self-esteem, that they can do anything, that they can achieve anything, that whatever they choose in their lives is okay. We try to make sure that they don't judge themselves, that they are not hard on themselves. We know that everybody's world, or every kid's world is hard, right? Because we as parents, we try to tell them, you have to do this, you have to do that, because we want them to survive, we want them to thrive, we want them to be successful, right? That's who we are. Parents,
they don't get to make all of their own choices.
Exactly. It is what it is, right? That's what happens really every single day. But we don't learn. There's not a lesson, right? We don't go to the college of parenting before we get to have kids, right? Right. But so it happens the same with those kids. So all the time, you know, everybody tells those kids what to do and what not to do. So when we tell them, if you choose, for instance, if you choose to be a nurse, or you choose to be a teacher, or if you choose to be, you know, military, to be in the military, or whatever it is, it's okay. There's no bad choice for you in your life as far as you like to make it. And, you know, you're not going to have a bad life because you're going to choose a path that maybe nobody is telling you to choose. Just choose what your heart is telling you to choose, and it's going to be okay, because again, those kids come with more pressure on them, on their bodies, on their hearts. Needless to say, very often there are special education kids in this group. And you can imagine, typically those special education kids are put aside. You know that. I mean, it's not like in the US, right? I mean, we lived in Mexico, and one of our kids was in the special education for a while. And we had to live the segregation, literally. I'm sorry to use this word, but it is really, when the special education kids are put aside and nobody wants to talk to them, nobody wants to show them to the rest of the parents. You know what I mean? When in reality, the rest of the kids, they really want to involve them,
Yeah.
and it's good for the rest of the kids that they understand that there's kids that have special needs, and there's kids that they might have special needs, but at the same time, they might have special talents and gifts. And you have seen this, and you see that every single day. There's these amazing kids that they might have some sensorial, limitation, boundary,
Right.
but at the same time, they're brilliant, like brilliant, and they can do things that you will never, ever in your life will do. And that's important to mix those two worlds, right?
I want to ask you about your foundation that you've worked on.
Yeah.
Tell me one more time the name of it. It's
Wisdom for Kids.
Wisdom
for Kids. Mm-hmm.
Your new entrepreneurial journey that you're
Yeah.
on right now for the last 6 years has allowed you to have the freedom to do this. Have
Yeah.
you noticed any parallels between this mission that you've been working on with these impoverished children and your work with CEOs and other entrepreneurs?
I like to say that with our foundation, we are really connecting the unconnected. I have something I didn't mention before, but what we do very often is we have C-level executives record videos for our kids in Latin America, even if they don't speak Spanish. It doesn't matter. Even if they don't speak Spanish, we still ask them to record it, then we caption those videos. Or there was a very nice CEO, very nice gentleman, 𝐓𝐡𝐢𝐫𝐝 is his name. He was so kind that he had someone in his team translate what he was going to say, like he had a script. I think it was a 4 or 5 minute video. He had someone in his team translate it into Spanish, and without speaking a word in Spanish, he made the effort of reading and talking to the kids on a video in Spanish, reading the script in Spanish.
Oh, wow.
It was amazing. So we try to your question, we really try to connect those two worlds. And we like to say that the kids that we are training, like we're helping with Wisdom for Kids, are the future CEOs of those corporations.
Absolutely.
Because we teach them, we really teach them that there's no boundaries, that everything is inside their mind, that and obviously don't expect, our workshops are not like a whiteboard or a blackboard, like, you have to do this and these are the steps, blah, blah, blah. We leave that to our volunteers to do that in a later stage. Our workshops are all about like energy-based. We sing, we dance, we jump, we play games, we dance, you name it. We do all sorts of, all this weird stuff that kids love to do so much.
Mhm.
We do that, along with the meditation, because we really want to connect with them. We have that chance of being with them that day. Obviously, we have to ask for permission before, and we have to talk to the community leaders and everything. They talk to their parents and they tell them what we're going to do, blah, blah, blah. But we want to make the most of that experience. So we connect with those kids in a way that probably they have never connected with anyone else before. They've never had this. And when we go to those communities, the first question that the community leaders ask us all the time, always is, okay, so all of this that you want to do with our kids, how much is going to cost us? It's always the first question, always. And we say, no, this is a nonprofit organization, and we do that for free. And we are very cautious, actually, let me tell you, because we've helped more than 1,000 kids now. We're very cautious about the names. We never write down a single name of a single kid. We don't keep a registry. We don't keep track of the names, nothing, because we don't want to do it. We don't want to take the risk of having the names of those kids, the ages, the locations where they are. We don't want to. We don't want to risk it. We
for
you know, we don't
privacy.
exactly for privacy. Again, because unfortunately, as you know, there's a lot of trafficking going on in the world that we don't know of, and we don't want to have any kind
Part
of
it,
risk.
yeah.
Exactly. So we are very, but at the same time, for instance, we make all the kids. One of the first things we do is we make all the kids actually to make a drawing in a piece of cardboard that we give them in the beginning of the workshop, and we give them pens and pencils, and we ask them to, how do you feel right now? Because this way we already see, when we collect all those cards, right? So we immediately see since the very beginning of that workshop how they feel, how they are. As you can tell a lot of things from a drawing from a kid, a lot of things, right?
Mm-hmm.
So these are all these different things, like, again, very unconventional stuff that we do just to make sure that we make the most of those workshops with those underprivileged kids.
Right, and you're touching on all those different learning modalities as well.
Excuse me?
And you're touching on the different learning modalities when you're
totally.
jumping and dancing and drawing and singing.
Totally.
You're touching on all of those. It's really making me remember a situation that I had when I was traveling internationally with a group, and we would go into the schools and we would do, it was more brief than what you're doing. Your workshops are more involved, but we would come in with a motivational message and anti-drugs and make good choices, and we tell personal stories, and we'd invite them to a concert afterward, different things like that. But I remember having this experience where I had been week after week after week going through systematically through the public school system. I think we were in Kosovo, and seeing hundreds and hundreds and hundreds and thousands of kids, and thinking, what, I probably in the course of these past 2 weeks have met or shaken the hands or talked to the future president of this country or this area that we're in. And what you're saying is investing in those kids that might not otherwise have someone investing in them, because they might be the next person. You always say that cures cancer or something like that, but like right now I'm even thinking about our recycling problem we have in the United States. Our city has just decided that they cannot recycle glass anymore. For a while they weren't accepting paper, and I'm like, of all things, it seems like glass and paper should be the most easy to make new things from again, and they're like, it's not cost effective, it's not worth the time. We don't have the people willing to work for the low wages that what they would need to be able to make this worth it. And all I can think is we have to get our kids in the public school systems, in the private school systems, I don't care who they are, to do their science projects, try to get innovative, because when they get to college, those research centers have the funding for, the research that we don't generally have. I mean, unless you're like in the private industry.
Mm-hmm.
Someone has got to solve this problem, and it's probably not going to be 60-year-old, executives that are going to solve this problem. It has to be the kids who are growing up to be able to take over, solving these big problems that we have. Otherwise, they're going to look like Wall-E, with the piles of trash everywhere. So that was my little side trip there.
I agree. I think that's why it's so important. And you see that with your own kids, April. It's so important to make sure that the creativity of your kids stays intact, if not promoted, as they grow up. That's why you mentioned the science project. Obviously, I mean, we've been involved with a lot of science projects here as well as any other parent in the country, right? But how much is this creativity empowered outside this science project? Because, I mean, again, having this incredible experience, going back to the language, right, to English and reading and writing, can an English teacher be, or a reading teacher, or can that person be, or try to promote or empower the creativity of their students? Of course. There's so many things. What about inventing words? Or what about inventing, or you have to write, I don't know, with 10 words, like 5 different sentences that make sense. I don't know. So just try to go like an extra mile and do like this silly stuff that it's going to add an additional edge of, oh my God, I never thought of this. I remember when I was in college, I had my most important friend, Ferran, when I was in college. He read the book. And since he told me what the book was about, I could never stop thinking about the concept. And the concept is this: for a teacher like you, you're going to love it. So he read that book in the 90s, okay? And the book was the theory, that was the concept, the theme of the book is every single book has already been written. Every single book has already been written. There will be a time in which there will be a computer that will be able to decide how a combination of any number of words makes sense and will start automatically publishing books. So let's say, for the sake of the example, let's say it's an again amazing concept. Let's say that we all write a statement of 100 words. That's the maximum, 100 words. So all the statements of 100 words in English have already been written in the world, all of them. You could have a computer generating, as many combinations of 100 words as the English language has, and then only select the ones that make sense and then publish them. If you think about this concept, it's so powerful. And again, that was in the 90s, that was almost 30 years ago. It led me thinking, so in reality, this is a proof that in our mind, right? Probably all these words, I don't know how many words in English exist. I have no idea. Probably I used, 2,000, you being native, 5,000, I have no idea. But
so many.
Yeah, exactly. So can you imagine the concept of everything has already been written, every single book has already been written? It's just a matter of just trying to put the same kind of words, or the words that make sense around together. It's amazing. So that's, again, the message I was trying to just share with the audience is that creativity is all over the place. We could use it with our kids continuously, no matter what. And they would, probably we would be caring about other stuff. We would be, instead of caring about drugs, which is a huge problem, as you know, it's a huge problem. I mean, you go to middle schools right now in Texas, and you can easily smell pot. It's crazy. It's crazy, isn't it? You smell pot in middle schools right now in Texas.
Right.
Really, it's crazy stuff. Needless to say, high schools. I didn't say high schools because obviously high schools is right. And well, anyway, and again, I'm not in favor or against, pot, and I know that marijuana can be beneficial health-wise, but at the same time, how do we use it, and how do we teach our kids to use it? What's the right, are we giving them the right tools to decide what's the good and what's the bad? Again, I think that you and I would be able to have a great conversation together about education.
Oh, I'm sure it would be fascinating. And I think that even though, there aren't very many new ideas left right now, the way that we present ourselves and the way that we, teach something is still going to always be unique, especially for that unique learner. So the combinations are endless as far as, what might work and help someone, and what might trigger someone. That experience that you had in your 9th grade summer changed your life, and it catapulted you into this place where you are now.
Totally.
Man, Angel, I wish we would have been able to talk a little bit more about your home office and, your work from home life, but I feel like we've had quite a great conversation. I know that you have to go somewhere. So why don't you go ahead and let people know how they can find you if they wanted to reach out to you? Absolutely.
Thank you very much, obviously, for the opportunity. I mean, my name again is Angel, ANGEL. Ribo is my last name, RIB as in boy O. The easiest way to reach out to me is to send me an email, angel@angelribo.com, angel@angelribo.com. If you go to LinkedIn, I'm on all social media outlets every single day, but if you go to LinkedIn, I'm very active there. I post every single day. And you can look for me, Angel Ribo. You can look for the CEO Confidant, the CEO Confidant, and it will be a pleasure, obviously, to answer any of your questions. And even if we haven't spoken that much about working from home, I think that it's been a good perspective about many different things that happen to the families that the parents work from home. So I think it's still being useful for people out there.
And if anyone was interested in learning more about your Wisdom for Children program, is there a place to find that too?
Oh, absolutely. They can go to wisdomforkids.today. That's the website. Wisdomforkids.today.
Today. Okay, sounds good.
Exactly.
All right. Well, thank you, Angel. I appreciate it. This has been April Malone with Angel Rebo, and we'll see you next time.
Thank you. Bye-bye. Thank you,
All
everybody.
right. Goodbye.
The business tips to successfully start and run your business so your business doesn't run you. And more importantly, we provide personal development tools to create a better version of yourself to provide the solid foundation for your life and business to stand upon. This is the Biz Reveal, and I'm your host, 𝐓𝐢𝐦𝐞'𝐬. This week's episode is sponsored by Sawyer Health Solutions. Protecting what's important to you is what's important to us. Get your free health insurance quote at SawyerHealthSolutions.com. Over the last 21 years, Angel Rebo has helped more than 1,500 CEOs in 33 countries accelerate the growth of their businesses by bridging the gap globally for expansion and exposure to grow their business. Angel, also known as the CEO Confidant, also sits on the board of the Evolutionary Business Council, which is an organization with more than 350 global transformational leaders with a combined reach of over 600 million people. After the show, learn more at www.theceoconfidant.com. This is the Biz Reveal podcast with this week's guest, Angel Rebo.
This is Angel Rebo. My brand is the CEO Confidant, and basically my life is made by, besides obviously my family, which is really important for me, is I'm originally from Spain. I've worked an international life. I live in Plano, Texas, which is a suburb north of Dallas. And basically what I do for a living is, number one, I have a consulting business, and both corporate CEOs and established entrepreneurs, they hire me to bridge the gap globally for expansion and exposure as a way to accelerate the growth of their businesses.
Okay.
So, and I can do that because basically throughout my corporate career, early on in Europe in the 90s, I started working for large corporations, and I was able to start working internationally, closing businesses in more than 33 countries in the last 20 plus years, and helping more than 1,500 CEOs with their challenges, their growth challenges. So that's why I chose the brand that I chose. And at the same time, I had a spiritual experience in 2015, which allowed me to see that the reason why I had lived before living here in Texas, the reason why I lived in Latin America when I moved from Europe to Latin America, is actually to be able to see so much poverty, so that I decided to help underprivileged kids in Latin America become entrepreneurs using their local resources. And we created along with a couple of friends, Wisdom for Kids, which is the foundation that actually does that, helping underprivileged kids in Latin America. So that's in a nutshell my life.
I like that. That's cool. And I appreciate that you're helping, in those communities, because that's something that as I get older, I feel like we need to do more of, right? I think when you're younger, you don't really, you're so focused on yourself and your own success that you don't really see the people that are not doing as well as you, and taking the time out to help them. That's awesome. When it comes to the companies that you help, like my first question is, how do they come to the realization that they even need you?
Yes. So I would say, well, probably it's not a surprise for you that for the last 12 to 14 months, lots of things have happened in the market, right?
Yeah, absolutely.
Lots of things. So I think that the purchasing habits of people and ways that people are looking for what they need is different, because they need different things, right? But they come to the realization that they need me basically when they're looking for someone that they want to make sure that they can expand globally using a path that has already been proven. That's the number one thing. So typically all companies, even entrepreneurs, all companies, regardless of their size, they realize that their IP, their products and services that they provide, they can also be useful for other people in other geographies that they have not necessarily still expanded to. So they start thinking, how can we do that? And there's a lot of, there's legalities, there's tax issues, there's, human resources issues, recruitment issues. But the most important thing is, how do we get to the market? How do we start talking to those customers? How do we start distributing our products and services? How do we find, trustworthy partnerships that we can start building our businesses up on those particular geographies? And those are the questions that we are able to answer. I say we because basically there's a team behind me I've been able to build for the last couple of years, and that's why. So very often, even being entrepreneurs, someone comes to us and say, "Hey, what you do is so pretty cool. You should do this globally. You should take this globally. There's so many people that could benefit from what you do, right? And you can be a coach, or you can be, manufacturing a certain product, whatever that is. But going global, we tend to think also, Craig, that as the internet is global, anything that we can do globally on the internet is already global by definition. And unfortunately, this is not true. This is kind of a blind spot. It's an unconscious bias. Let's use this term, which is very famous these days, right? So we tend to think that as we're in the internet, it's the same. Let's say we speak English, right? So it's the same selling to Americans and selling to Canadians, selling to South Africans, selling to Australians, selling to Brits, right? It's not true. It's not true. It's definitely not true, because copywriting, because, all the different things, all the way that you market your products and services is going to be different.
Yeah, because
even
every cult or every company has its own laws and everything. And you also have the different cultures that are going to be in each one of those areas that might
totally
tell you what kind of direction you want to go to when it comes to your marketing.
Exactly. And also, as you know, I mean, I've helped companies expand nationally. And for instance, just to give you an example, a company based in Texas having a very, very hard time to open an office in Chicago, just to give you an example, to find the right person to lead that office and to be able to start developing the business for that Texas-based company in Chicago. And I'm just mentioning an example. I mean, right now, you live in Florida, I live in Texas. Both of our states are kind of, pretty, how to say this so that we don't hurt anybody's feelings. pretty open from a restriction perspective, right? For whatever reason. Again, I'm not here to judge anybody, and I like to build bridges all the time. But so, let's say business is speaking up again, and people are starting to invest a lot and to think about how am I going to spend more money so I can keep the growth of my business.
Right.
So all those are the questions that both entrepreneurs and corporate corporate C-levels are asking themselves: how to take this to another place, to another geography outside my own backyard, and still being respectful of the culture. So, and it's funny how as I told you, I work with kids. It's funny how when we go, it's so amazing how your life or God or whatever that you believe in, it puts everything in your life in a way that suddenly it all makes sense. Mm-hmm. When I go to Latin America and I teach kids, one of our main concerns is how are we going to be fully respectful of their reality, fully respectful of their culture. So we're not invading them in any way, but still we can make a positive impact in their culture, right? In their community. So it's the exact same thing. It's the exact same thing in business. So that's why, we were having a conversation, Craig and I, about how to express ideas and how to talk to people. And I think that making things which might seem complicated, making them really simple and being able to explain them really, really simple or simply, I think it's an art and it's a skill, and it's very, very needed today.
So is there some research that you do prior to that then? Because you want to know, I would assume, to be able to do that, make sure you're not offending anybody and not, overstepping any types of boundaries that we just may not have here just because of our culture. Do you do some research on those different areas, those different countries that you go into before you expand then?
Oh, absolutely. Absolutely. Well, first remember that one of the reasons why I do what I do is because I have developed such a strong network of partners, of clients, of friends, of distributors, of resellers. So I know so many people in so many countries that represents a real soft landing.
Yeah, that helps.
So when I'm having a conversation with a company saying, okay, we're going to expand to Brazil, for instance, I happen to speak a little bit of Brazilian as well, of Portuguese. But, we sit down with people that have done this consistently. So we're able to have a conversation between, someone, let's say in the US or in Canada, whatever, and, we want to expand to Brazil, let's say. So we have these conversations in which we're able to lay on the table everything that needs to happen and everything that, my partner, my company, or my client's company here in the US needs to know before, we have a soft landing in Brazil. And it has to be a soft landing. And every country has their own cultural differences. So we have to make sure. And again, this is a skill, right? I mean, this is something that when you do over and over and over and over again, right? It's like you mentioned briefly before to me that you had been in the military, right? Mm-hmm. So how important is persistence? How important is to do one thing over and over and over and over again so that you master that. You master that specific thing that you need to do to accomplish certain strategic goal, right? So it's the exact same thing. It's persistence, until it becomes something that comes natural out of you. And that's what my team and I have been able to develop.
Oh, for sure. And so when this first starts, the company that is looking for your advice, they're like, yeah, you know what, we're doing pretty well, but we're doing pretty well here. And I think we've got something special that will work in other places as well. We need to speak with somebody who can help us get bigger. What is that initial meeting with you, whether virtually or in person? I know almost everything's done virtually these days, but how's that initial meeting with you? How's that go?
Okay, yeah. Number one, it's three different steps, I would say. Number one is obviously to get to understand each other, what we can do and what they really want to accomplish. Okay. So do they really have the right questions or the right reasons why they want to go internationally? Yes or no? Is it just they want to grow? Why do they want to grow? Why do they think that this is going to work in other markets, even before we start talking about what geography, what market is going to be? Right. Number two is, do they really have the financial lung to do this? Because you have to have not only the revenues, you have to have the profitability, you all have to have the cash flow. Do you really have the cash flow to have this done for the next, let's say, 1 year? Less than a year is not, less than a year is even not realistic. Okay. If you really want to start looking at foreign markets, less than 12 months, they're going to give you really any positive or any real feedback that you can base your strategy. So do you have the financial resources available already today to support your company do that? And we started a conversation saying, so this, this might cost you this, and this, you might have to do this, and you might have to do that. And then the third step is, okay, so this is what I think that we should be doing as far as customizing your value proposition, right? So which is your product or your service. Mm-hmm. So this is what right now, after just this very brief conversation, that can take, let's say 1 hour, 2 hours. So this is what I think we should be starting as far as, the starting point of how to start looking at that market and start talking to the local presence, the local partners, the local distributors, or the local potential clients. It's very common that we try to be perfectionist and we have to try to have everything under control before we go to another market. Right. I think the other way around. Totally the other way around. I think that you have to be completely vulnerable and you have to be completely open to have conversations, informal conversations with potential clients and business partners of yours before you go to a new market. And literally have a conversation over lunch, over dinner. If you cannot travel, let's have it over Zoom. But really say, hey, we would like to do this. We would like to launch this. Is that something that would interest you as a potential client? We're not asking you for a purchase order. We're just asking you for your opinion. Right. How do you think that would work? This is what we do here. This is the benefits we provide here to our current clients. What do you think that would benefit you? If it's not you, who do you think?
So it's almost like a brainstorming session where you're trying to be creative and get some ideas together, as opposed to having everything already lined up and in plan and implemented. You're trying to open up the door and try to get the ideas coming in.
True. And setting up the right expectations, Craig. It's very important to set the right expectations. Because again, we think that, okay, so we have very high levels of revenue, we're thriving. It's the time to go internationally, but it's not always the case. Again, we have to drill down also. I mean, again, how profitable is your company? How do you really understand? Do you have enough cash flow? It's really going deep. But allow me to insist in the expectations part of it, because I think that very often there's this in these conversations, there's things that are not being talked into in detail. And I think it's very important to set the right expectations from the very beginning. This is a journey. It's going to last this long. And this is what we're going to do. And we're going to be really humble. And we're we're really going to open our mind to be allowed and to be able to adapt our products and our services to the new market and see how they can fit and if they can fit. So again, it's very often things fail because the expectations are not being set, not even the right expectations, because there's no expectation set. And that is wrong. I mean, it looks like this is not rocket science, but anybody who has a partner in their lives, or even kids, come on, you never set the right expectations. Right. How often do you,
but you can never meet them if you don't know what they are. You can never meet the goals if you don't know what the goals are in the first place and how you're going to carry it out. And actually that kind of leads me into what my next question was going to be is, where is the biggest deficit with companies? What is their biggest weakness when it comes to this process? Is it the expectations? Is it that they think it's going to go faster than it does, or that it's going to cost less than it actually does? What's their biggest weakness there?
Yeah, I think that they underestimate the cultural differences and what it entails to get to a specific culture. Again, as I said before, and the typical example is, no. I'm already very successful doing this locally. I'm just going to translate the material, and we're going to hire some local salespeople. That's going to run. That's going to take care of itself. It's not true. It's not true. You always need to set the right expectations with the local people. You have to start training these people. You have to onboard them. You have to make sure that they are part of the local culture of your own company. Again, imagine that whenever you're going, speaking of, is that thunderstorm?
Yeah.
What I'm hearing?
Can you hear that? We got a little bit of storm going down here. Welcome to Florida.
Exactly. Welcome to Florida. Excuse me. It was so strong, so loud here. So it's the same thing. It's like God is telling us in this conversation, hey guys, do you want to go? You're going to go abroad. You're going to go start your business somewhere else. Be careful, because what you might think that you already know, you don't really know. Very often people ask me the following: what kind of clients are you looking for? What kind of industries? Is there an industry that you prefer? I always say the same thing. It's about the business leader. It's about the person that's going to eventually hire us more than the industry, because we have health, retail, we have healthcare, high tech, oil and gas, you name it. And the common denominator is always, does the business leader really want to change? Really want to change? Okay. And sometimes we have had to drop some clients because unfortunately they did not want to change, or they were changing too slowly. Right? We would advise them to change a few things, and they wouldn't do it. No. We don't want to do it. Again, we all know change is difficult, but that's why I said, even if I tell, let's say what you do is amazing and you want to go somewhere else. You are in Florida already. You are surrounded by a very, there's a lot of Spanish population. Let's say you want to expand your business to Colombia, let's say, right? And you say, no. There's so many Colombians living in Florida. Just reach out to a few of them. We'll have some conversations. I'm going to say, Craig, unfortunately, this is the wrong answer. Just because I will definitely like you to have conversations with some potential vendors, some potential business clients of the future, and to have a conversation with them to see, okay, so this is me as Craig and my company, Craig, LLC is going to offer these services to Colombia. And I really want you to have those conversations with these potential clients and to really understand, how the different pieces of the puzzle are going to be working. Again, that's the number one blind spot, underestimating the differences between doing it from here. Everything is, telematic today, right? Everything goes through online. So everything is going to be the same. And it's not true that this universal culture does not exist. It does not exist such a thing as a universal culture.
So what you're saying is like it would be different talking to Colombians in Florida as it would be talking to Colombians in Colombia, right? Because of their environment, their cultures, the legalities, the differences in income and all that stuff. They're in it. They're right in the middle of it, as opposed to Colombians. Maybe they've lived here for 10 years. They're already used to our culture. So you're not really getting it straight from the source that way. Unless
they do the same as I do, right?
Right.
But yeah, exactly.
Okay.
I had, since I moved to Latin America in 2001, I literally had, we were talking about Latin America as an example, but we could go to Europe as well, because I started my international career in the 90s in Europe. So we tend to think that, again, everything is global and blah, 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 but it's not true. And what I was going to say is that even if you read books about culture and about, how to embrace the way business are being done, there's always this, the market is going and it's changing much faster than what we can really perceive when we are not living there and we are not having the same struggles that they are having locally. I used to travel literally 250 different flights a year for many years, going to all those different countries and going to Europe, back and forth, and Latin America. So again, you end up developing a skill. You end up, analyzing, you end up developing systematic ways to approach businesses and countries, so that's the value. Basically, that's the value that we offer to our potential
that's the
clients.
Experience. The experience always talks, and if you have more experience doing those kinds of things, you're going to be better at it. So when it comes to the success of doing this, I know we talked about what some of the pitfalls might be when you get started.
Mm-hmm.
Give us a perfect scenario, like a company that, man, they just cruised right through this process and they were successful once they got to their end goal. What sets them apart from others?
I would say what sets them apart are those things. Number one, this openness to really embrace and test every single thing that is being suggested to them, because it's not the same like someone that's selling, a product, a specific retail product, a specific consumer group, than a company which is offering, high-tech services. But the number one, openness to embrace different ideas and strategies while getting to a specific market. Number two, going early to meet with clients. That's definitely one of the keys to success. Starting the conversations with potential clients really, really early on. Really early on, as in maybe not 1 month, but 2 months, 3 months down the road, already have a lineup of potential clients to have these conversations. Hey, we would like to launch this. What do you think of this? This is the way we would like to do it. This is how we do it. This is what makes us different in other countries. Do you have something similar here? Do you think that we could compete? How can we compete with this? Or can we collaborate with someone? Is there an already existing network? And that's number three. Are they open to embrace local partnerships that will ensure that their landing is going to be soft? In the future, you can do whatever you want, but what about going hand in hand with someone that doesn't have that offering yet, doesn't have that offer locally, but is willing to set up a partnership? So those are the three things: being open, being really open to know ideas and strategies that they have not tested locally in their already existing market. Number two, making sure that they want to connect with potential clients and start talking about their viable product or viable service, soon enough. And number three, establishing the right partnerships from the very beginning. I like to think in terms of abundance, Craig. I don't think our scarcity is going to take us anywhere.
Right.
As much as I like market share as anybody else, Craig, what about having, a 50% of something rather than 0% or 100% of nothing, right? So, I've seen this over and over and over again. And guess what? After what's going on in the world right now, my friend, I think that collaboration and partnerships is definitely, or should be definitely, in the forefront of the strategy of anybody trying to expand their business.
Yeah, and that's probably a common theme too, is you have somebody who's been doing their business for a long time. They feel like they know everything about it, and to release that power, and like you said, change is always hard for any of us. So relinquishing that power over the growth of their company, their baby, to somebody else, but they're doing it because you're the pro. Like you go to a doctor, right? Because you know that the doctor specializes in what they do and you trust that doctor to help you because they know a lot more about medicine than you do, right? And I think it's the same way, but it's always difficult to do that because if you're an entrepreneur or business owner and you built that business, especially to the size that you're talking about it needs to be before you start expanding globally, it is hard to relinquish that power over to somebody else and trust them with cradling that little baby of yours. That's gonna be pretty difficult.
Yeah. And also when I work with entrepreneurs, let's say, and they have like more of their hands into their own business, right? They control more of the business, even with themselves. I mean, having access to the people that's going to localize and customize their products and their services faster, I think that's extremely important. Again, don't take your chances. Very often people ask me, what were the main mistakes you made in your business when you started as a consultant? Not asking for help was one of them.
It is tough because you want people to trust you and think, you're the pro,
Yeah.
And sometimes asking for help, it makes you feel like you're not.
Yeah. And also, you have this imposter syndrome. Oh, then they're going to know what I don't know. So what? That's who you are. You're not going to cheat anybody. I mean, you want to be who you are. I mean, it's all about setting expectations. That's who you are, and that's what you know. Let's do that.
Is that the biggest piece of advice that you would give? Is it setting the expectations, being open? Is that the big, like?
I use a mantra for my business, which is going to be related very much to what we spoke about before, which is take imperfect action now. That's my favorite one, which is related to the second and the third steps of going internationally, because I think that people are, again, I know where that comes from. I mean, this comes from our school system, our formal education. I mean, everything has to be perfect. We have to be 100 out of 100 people all the time, no matter what. Right. And this is so wrong. If we have to have everything perfect, honestly, it's by walking that you realize that things are working or not working. It's like, again, I've never served myself, but I had both my grandfather and one of my uncles served in the military back in Spain. I mean, when you start the mission, whatever that mission is it important what you're seeing when you get there, as opposed to what you had what your plan was? Oh, come on. Of course, as soon as you start being in the field, in the ground, you start seeing many other things. And what do? You course correct. So it's the same thing. We are as human beings, we are so flawed. I apologize for saying this openly, but we are so flawed that we're trying to have everything perfect before we make a step. And that step would actually show us so much. Talking to that particular specific client could teach us so much that would probably change the rest of things, the rest of decisions we will make.
I think we learn a lot more from failures than we do from books, right? And you never forget the failure, so it usually lasts longer.
Yeah, and also, and to your point, I love reading books. I'm always reading books, and something which is so amazing is that when you read a book for the second time or the third time, if you ever do that, it's a completely different book, Craig. It's totally different, and you say, what's wrong here? No, it's nothing wrong. It's just that you're a different person because you took so many routes and you made so many mistakes. You learned so many things that right now it resonates in a different way. And it's the same thing. That's why taking action, and it's so important. And also, I don't have to say this, people obviously can understand it. Now that people are more afraid of, for whatever reason, of traveling, physically speaking, and there's restrictions and there's quarantines and blah, blah, blah. Obviously, having the right partners in the right countries is more important than any time before, right? So being able to connect immediately with people locally that can give you that, perspective and can put you in touch with these potential future clients, it's never been more important than now.
Who you know is always important, but like you just said, kind of pointed out, in fact, I hadn't really even thought about it that way, but, having somebody on the inside, if you got somebody in all of these different places, you've got somebody on the inside, you've got eyes and ears right in the middle of everything. So I know with all this advice that we're kind of giving and information that we're giving, I like to kind of put a spin on this. And if you get stuck on this one, don't worry about it. But is there any piece of advice that you have given that you have not taken yourself?
Well,
I'm really good. I'm good at giving advice,
it,
but I suck at taking my own advice. You know
something which is, I just mentioned this a few minutes ago, which is I suck at this because sometimes I say, no, I have to regroup. Mm-hmm. I know that there's, and I preach all the time, and I have done it in the past, but right now, probably I don't do it as much as I used to do it before, which is collaboration.
Okay.
And it's one of the main mistakes. It's one of the main mistakes I made when I started my own journey as an entrepreneur. I think that collaboration is key to start your own business.
Do you think that it's been because you've learned so much that you feel like all the things that you may have collaborated with other people before to gain their knowledge, you've now gained yourself, so you're not talking to those people as much anymore?
No, because I think that we don't collaborate properly. Okay. Just think of yourself. I mean, for instance, I use LinkedIn a lot. I'm on LinkedIn all the time. Okay. And obviously a lot of people reach out to me saying, we would like to collaborate with you, blah, blah, blah. And I've received hundreds of them literally every single week, but we don't know how to collaborate. Let's say after that collaboration message, there's a phone call or there's a Zoom call, let's say, and we start talking. Chances are that collaboration is going to take us anywhere. It's just because we don't set the right expectations. It's just because it's not very clear the way that you exchange value. It's not very clear what you expect from that other person and what that other person expects from me. You know, I have a very good, I would say, teacher or mentor that he uses something called the secret contract, which he says that his theory is that we all have secret contracts with everybody. So, for instance, in my case, I have a wife, I have kids, I have obviously friends, I have relatives, blah. I have a secret contract with everybody. And the secret contract is that contract, those clauses that have so many expectations, those expectations that you have from other people and the expectations that other people have from you, but you've never, ever spoken about. And let's say, let's mention my wife, which is one of the closest people I have to me, right? So there's things I've never spoken with my wife, and there's things that my wife has never spoken with me about. There's always going to be there. Mm-hmm. Always going to be there. And obviously, she expects me to do things that she's never spoken about. And the same thing. Guess what? Very often when there's conflicts between partners, you know, it's because they expect something from us that maybe wasn't communicated clearly, or or never was communicated. Of course, I've told you so many times, you should already know this. Right. You know, when I go back home, I expect you to have the dinner ready for me, whatever that is. I'm making a joke out of it, but if you analyze this, if you take, let's say, your top 3 best friends, Craig, I dare you, they have expectations from you that they've never told you, and you have expectations from them you've never told them.
And that's where misunderstandings come from. Because again, like you were talking about the expectations, if you don't know what they are, how are you expected to meet them? And you're right. I mean, there's things, because especially when you're talking about spouses, I can relate, man. I think we could get on a whole completely different topic on this one right here. Men talking about their wives never ends well. But you could, that whole mind reading thing, right? You know, like I'm supposed to you can't expect me to read your mind, but it's because they may, and when I say they, I'm not just talking about spouses, but they being your customers, your coworkers, your partners, they may expect you to react or do things that you don't know that you should be reacting or doing because it hasn't been conveyed to you.
Yes. So that happens in all areas of our lives, all areas. And also you can walk away from those non-written secret contracts. You know what I mean? So it's all about the education. I mean, there's too many restrictions in our relationships. And it's good to say to your friend, one of your best friends, hey, unfortunately, if you're expecting this, I will not be able to fulfill that because A, B, and C. And if they are friends of yours, they will understand. You know what I mean? So again,
and you're putting those expectations out to them that way.
Exactly.
Yes. Yeah,
exactly. It's just communication. But again, we're so distracted. Mm-hmm. We are so continuously distracted all the time with so many things that we don't end up ever just having those conversations, because it's easier when you meet with a friend. Okay, so you're going to meet over a beer or over a meal, right? And you're going to have fun and you're going to make jokes about another friend, or guess what I saw, guess what they did, blah, blah, blah. And you will never have really a deep, it's not very common that you have very deep conversations, like really, really deep conversations. I mean, I'm not criticizing nor blaming. I'm just saying we tend to be very superfluous on the conversations we have with our friend. And this is obviously to the detriment of the relationships and the expectations of the relationship. Again, it happens. I'm just saying this because it happens consistently in the business world as well.
Sure.
There's no exception. This happens in the business world. So even if there are contracts and there are scopes of work, you name it, there are still misunderstandings. And so that's why I think that it's flexibility is a very nice virtue and thing to work on.
And I'm a firm believer in keeping good company, right? You are who you're around, and I think we've all seen, different phrases out there that if you hang out with millionaires, you're going to be a millionaire. If you hang out with, crackheads, you're going to be a crackhead, right? I mean, it's just, you are your environment. So knowing that your role models are tremendously important to you growing up and after you're in the thick of things in life, and you have a business started, you've got a life going on. Who were some of your role models that you looked up to that you said, even current ones, growing up or current, because sometimes they change in time because you're, what you're looking at ahead of you, it changes. But who are some of your role models that you want to emulate? Yeah,
I have to confess that I really haven't had any like mentors or role models as such. I have been reading a lot throughout my life. I would say books have been good companions of mine.
Okay.
And probably the first person ever that made a huge impact, obviously, I mean, outside my father, who would be probably like one of my role models because he's a successful business person. But regardless of my father, personally, my father or my family, I would say that the first person that really made a big difference, and he opened my mind to many different concepts I had not been so clear about, was Tony Robbins. When I went to one of his events, I went to Unleash Your Power Within. I was totally onto that event, like completely immersed. As you know, he speaks about immersion a lot.
He's a great speaker.
And, exactly.
Yeah.
And the whole, he came to Dallas in 2012. I think it was 1 year and a half later, after I had already come here to Texas. And there were many concepts that he was talking about, like, how you tie, wealth with the amount of people that you help. The concepts about health, for instance. I remember that in 2012, not many people will remember, but everybody was afraid of the Ebola. And that was 2012, like big time. Mm-hmm. And he was making so many jokes about Ebola throughout the entire 4 or 5 day, event. And he was saying, our immune system is so magnificent, is so powerful. Don't you worry, even if the shape of Ebola is the most known shape of any small microscopic beast on Earth, right? Don't worry about it. You're all going to be right and good. And so there were so many concepts. And besides, as you know, he's able with the music and with his words and with his tone.
It's powerful.
He's mastered communication.
Yeah.
Even though, well, everybody knows his voice is, he's having issues.
Very
with
big
his voice.
and boomy.
He
commands power when he talks. He is a phenomenal speaker.
He is a phenomenal speaker. Yeah. So he's definitely one of them. Another person that has made a difference because of his knowledge is Dr. Joe Dispenza, because I really like neuroscience and epigenetics and these kind of things. He has a great book called Breaking the Habit of Being Yourself. And I think that we, in general, as humans, I think that we are continuously trying not to be humans and be more supernatural kind of thing. And I think that we are continuously, we have this survival mode that, is there to protect us as an SPC, right? So we can survive, right? But it's so wrong, right? It makes us so conservative. It makes us so be fearful and be careful of what's going to happen around us, right? When in reality, we should devote our energy on other things rather than be careful, right and left. So those are two people that I have really admired in my life.
Knowing what you know now, because you've obviously experienced
Yes.
A lot of different things. You've lived in different places. You've spoken to so many different people.
Yes.
You've been exposed to so much different culture and different types of people around the world.
Yeah.
So knowing what you know now, if you could go back to 10-year-old Angel, what would you tell him?
Take more risks.
Take more risks. I like that.
Oh yeah, big time. This imperfect action, the thing that taking perfect action now, oh my God, I would tell Angel, take more risks. Take more risks. I'm not telling you not to calculate the risk, but take more risks. Every time you're presented with an opportunity, think why not, as opposed to do I really have to, or if I take it, what's going to happen to me? No. Why not? Talk yourself out of the opportunities as opposed to the other way around. We're always trying to convince ourselves, is this the best option or the other option? No. Take that route and then think, okay, so why should I not take that route? Definitely.
And I think that would also keep you from regretting a lot of things later, because regret is one of the worst things ever. And I know I've met people who say that, you know what, I don't really have any regrets. I don't believe that. I think we all have regrets. There's things that we have said no to that could have changed our life if we said yes. You're on vacation and your wife wants you to go on I don't dance, man. I don't dance. And if you saw me dance, you'd understand why. But if you go out there and dance, what do I care? I don't know these people. I'm never going to see them again. I don't care if I embarrass myself. I'm having a good time, but I don't go, and I think I like that. I mean, and that's a small risk, right? But just an example of how small some of those things could really change things. I think it was Richard Branson that said, if somebody offers you a position and you don't know how to do it, say yes and learn how to do it later.
Exactly.
Right. And learn. I mean, if you're not good at it, you're not good at it, and you just go do whatever it was that you're doing. But why not? Don't pass up opportunities that way. So I like that advice.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, I've had a pretty, entertaining life, but still, I would have loved to take more risks, many more risks, and do many more things. I mean, I had not many traumas and not many traumatic situations in my life, but I'm very happy with who I am today, and I'm happy of who I am because of everything has taught me something. Everything that has happened in my life, but still, I would have loved to take more risks.
Yeah. Yeah. And for those who are listening to this and, heeding that advice, it does tie into what we were talking about at first, with expanding business, take that risk. If you've been thinking about it, but it just seems too big, too cumbersome, you never know. Right. Angel, that's our time for today, man. Thank you so much for joining me. If you wouldn't mind, take a minute or two here. Let everybody know how they can reach out to you and get in hold of you for your advice and everything that you give out there.
Absolutely. Thank you. Obviously, thank you for the opportunity, Craig. So the easiest way to reach out to me, you will see anybody going out there to social media. You will see me everywhere, every single day. Thank God I have a team helping me to do that. And my name is Angel, A-N-G-E-L, last name Ribo, R-I-B as in boy, O. The reason why I'm spelling my name is because my email address I'm going to share with you is very simple. I would love to have your opinion. What did you think of our conversation today? My email is angel@angelribo, one word, angelribo.com. And again, my brand is the CEO Confidant. If you go, I'm very active on every single social media outlet. The one which I am the most active is LinkedIn, the professional network. And I will be very glad to obviously interact with you. Thank you for the opportunity, Craig. And obviously, thank you to everybody who has been, who has listened to us today.
For sure. Thank you for joining us this week. Go to our website at thebizreveal.com to catch all of our past episodes. We're available on all podcast apps, or you can watch any of our episodes on the Biz Reveal YouTube channel. This is the Biz Reveal. Till next time.
Hey, Internet friends, this is Magic Brad on the Magic Brad Show in Synergy Cafe, and I've got a new friend that's just down 35W here from Minneapolis, living in Dallas, Texas, and his name is Angel, and the last name is Rebo. You there, Angel?
I am here indeed. Thank you for having me, Magic Brad, and thank you everybody who's listening to us today.
How was the weather down there? I understood you guys got some of our Minnesota snow down there a while ago.
Oh, come on, don't remind me. That wasn't the worst thing, right? The worst thing was having no power for a long time.
Yeah.
So weather today is we have some clouds and it's sunny, and we were 49 at the beginning of the day. So probably right now we are over 50.
You got the power back.
Oh yeah. But the funny thing is that we are having internet outages.
Oh, sure.
Yeah. So
Also
you know we have to
glitches.
we have to get ready for that.
Hopefully this will go smoothly.
Yeah. Absolutely. No. I mean, you know, the thing is, how to say this? You would never imagine that you would be 35 degrees inside your house. You know, I mean, it's like crazy stuff. And how can we possibly do that?
You see your breath?
It was dark, so I don't remember.
Well, Angel, I don't do these real long. I keep them kind of condensed. And we
Oh,
get right
please,
into the
absolutely.
details.
I'm all about it. Please.
Absolutely.
Thank
So
you.
how long have you lived in Dallas?
For 10 years now.
Okay, deep roots.
It's a great
Good.
place. It's a
Good.
great place. Yeah, absolutely.
And you married and got kids? You a single wild?
I'm married. I have 3 kids.
Okay.
2 live at home. The other one left already. So yeah. So I mean, we are excited. We love it here. We're very, very into the community. We are volunteers in local hospices, volunteers in the schools. So you know, we are all in here. I mean, we love it here. We are in north of Dallas, actually, in a place called Plano, and it's a.
Oh, that's where they make the tackle boxes, the fishing tackle boxes in Plano, Texas.
It can be. I don't know. I should be a fisherman. Oh, the tackle boxes. Oh,
Tackle
okay.
box.
Oh,
Yeah,
okay.
little
Yeah.
boxes.
I don't. I think it's the second person that has told me that before. It could be. But you know, there's so many headquarters of large corporations right now. You know, so many things happening in the area that probably like the ones that have lived here, probably they are more like acquainted with former companies, like companies that have been
Sure. Well,
here forever.
I'm 63, almost 64 years old. So I'm talking way back when I was a teenager going fishing. I remember I had a plastic Plano tackle box and
Wow.
made in
Okay.
Plano, Texas, Plano. So who would have thunk it? So tell us a little bit about.
Let me tell you something. We've been here for 10 years, and there's places that when we came here, there was nothing built.
Mhm.
And as you know, Texas is the second largest state in the union.
Wow.
So there's so much space to fill, you know, that we are in. I mean, it's amazing the amount of companies and headquarters that are relocating every single year.
It's also fascinating how fast they can build buildings these days.
Yeah, true. Yeah,
It's
very,
not like
very
brick
true.
by brick by brick anymore. They take them big slabs and put them up, and poof, they got a warehouse. You know.
I agree.
Fascinating.
I agree. I don't know what's going to happen with the space, with the office space right now, with you know, with all the virus and everything. But anyway, people will figure it out. I mean, we're business people, so you know, everybody figures out what to do with the
Yes.
surroundings. But it's
The
a great
entrepreneur.
area. It's an international area. There's people from many different places in the world here. Very important, you know, high-tech industry. So again, multicultural. This is really a melting pot of cultures here in Plano, Texas.
Do you consider yourself an entrepreneur
I do.
in the business world?
Totally. Yeah.
You got that entrepreneurial spirit, and we will innovate and adjust. You know, my background is in the event industry, events, travel, and tourism. Guess what? COVID doesn't like that. That said no. So I
Yeah.
had to innovate, and that's why I'm doing a lot more online things like this, just staying out there, making it happen. So tell us a little bit about your business and what you do. Your
Yeah, thank you.
compensation.
Absolutely. So basically, both corporate CEOs and established entrepreneurs, they hire me to bridge the gap globally for expansion and exposure. Basically, I help them grow or accelerate the growth of their businesses through strategies related to going global, basically. And basically, it's two very, very defined parts. One is, you know, exposure. It's all about how do you get the right exposure in the right market at the right with the right target, right? And the other one is how to get, basically it's more like business development. You know, how to find the right clients or partners or partnerships or distributors or resellers. It depends on what service or product you're providing.
So you work with a lot of different type of people, I'm sure. And
Yes.
do you run into like the old school guys that want to do like radio and TV because that's what works, and they won't innovate into a different way?
Well, I haven't had that conversation, but I definitely deal with old school guys. And I think that everybody is so sensitive already about online, that, I mean, I have been offered myself to have a show on a radio station. But obviously then it's all about, I would have it if I could bring my clients on, and then I could help them, publicize their system, their products and services, right? So it all depends. It all goes down to the audience that you are serving. But I think that right now, even the older schoolers are really, they know that they have to be online. And to that purpose, actually, I use LinkedIn extensively.
Yeah.
I use as you probably have seen, I mean, I'm very active on LinkedIn. I have 27,000 connections. I literally interact with a few, over, now that I counted, it's over 1,500, almost 2,000 people on LinkedIn interacting every single week, literally. So yeah, I have it's where that's my world. It's where I, interact with everybody.
Well, the reason I bring it up, because I'm in the event business, and there was a party supply store locally here, and the old school guys, they've been around for like 30 years or something like that. They wanted to do radio ads. They didn't really want to put money into this social media thing because they wanted to do the old radio. And you could take that money and you can really put it into a much better place online these days when you understand that kind of thing. Some don't.
But it's a great way of thinking still, because so the question that I like, I'm not the person that asks, can we do this or can we do that? Like, close-ended questions. I'm more the kind of guy that asks my clients, my partners, I ask, how can we? And I think that at the end of the day, the main reason why they wanted to be on radio shows or let's say the classic radio, is because of the human touch. And for instance, the other day I was having a conversation with an entrepreneur. He wanted me to help her launch a show online. And actually we ended up thinking of how do we make this show online as the old radio shows in which people they would never miss the show. They already knew at what time it was every single week. Right. And they wanted to be there, and they wanted to make phone calls to the show and actually ask them questions live, these kind of things, and then the radio shows were many different things, but number one, they were informative, but more importantly, they would accompany you, right? They would be your buddies. You know what I mean? If you felt kind of alone or you didn't know what to do, you would go to those programs because you like the host or co-hosts, right? And it's a place where you wanted to be heard and you were curious about the questions of others. So if you realize this, it's like, how do you keep the human connection alive, having an online interaction? That's the question I'm answering myself for my clients every single day. That's exactly what I do.
Yeah, it's the human engagement, and like you said, the Q&A kind of thing where you're actually talking and solving problems, and so it might be more applicable. So it's always good to ask those open-ended questions, the who, what, where, when, how, why, to get information in rather than saying this is the way it should be. Yes, sir.
Exactly.
Are there any specific niches that you work in? Do you work in like
that's a great question.
Real estate?
That's a great question. To be honest, historically, I was working with literally every single industry. Today, it's more related to the mindset of the owner, CEO, entrepreneur, more than to any industry. I really don't think there's any industry I have not worked. To be honest.
So you prefer to work with the owner operator rather than going through the red tape of the committee and the board and all that kind of stuff?
No, that's a great question again. No, I don't mind, because I'm good. I'm good physically. Let's say I like to have the face-to-face, so that's where I am really, I mean, if I may say, right, humbly speaking, good at. I'm good at being face-to-face with people, talking to people, listening to people, and understanding what they want so that I can provide them with what they need. So to your question, I really like when there's a structure already in place, because that makes things easier. But that's for corporations, right? But I work a lot with entrepreneurs. So, it's all about the mindset of the person you're working with rather than the kind of company, either size or industry, really.
Sure. Yeah, because sometimes people are concerned about their competition,
Yeah.
and maybe there is no competition. You're just in your own lane. Depends on how
Yeah.
fast you want to drive.
But yeah, and that's one of the reasons why, for instance, last year here in the Dallas business arena, I was helping an accelerator with their entrepreneurs and startup owners. And we did a couple of webinars throughout the year, last year, about pivoting in times of crisis. And a lot of entrepreneurs, while pivoting is like you are starting over your business, right? Somehow. So they were afraid of, oh, is there competition or there is no competition? I think that's the wrong question, very, very humbly speaking, okay? I think that's the wrong question. The thing is, I mean, do I really like what I'm going to do or to sell? Mm-hmm. Do I have the expertise? Is there an audience for this? And are they going to pay for it? If you are able to answer those 4 questions, then the competition really becomes irrelevant. Because
Correct.
if you're able to do yourself, you're able to do something better than the competition, if there's competition, then you're going to thrive. So the question is rather not if there's competition, is how can I differentiate myself? And again, I also believe that the same way I told you before that I don't pick like industries, or I don't pick company sizes, or profiles. I pick mindset. I think it's the exact same way. I think that even if you provide the same service as someone else, I think that you are going to be, there's still going to be an audience because people will like you as opposed to someone else. You know what I mean?
I agree.
So let's say you and I will both provide the same service. By nature, there's going to be people that naturally will be attracted to you, and others will be attracted to me, just because of who you are, even because of your physical appearance, the way you speak, your accent. I mean, there's so many variables. I mean, your experience in life, right? There's so many things.
I agree.
So that's why I think that it all depends on how badly you want to do this, how really enthusiastic and passionate you are about providing a specific service or selling a specific product, rather than the competition. I'm very skeptical about cutting someone's wings because of the competition. Very skeptical.
Yeah, I've never really understood the competition in business, because if you look at it, McDonald's and Burger King and Coca-Cola and Pepsi are still there. So nobody's won. There is no goal. There's no end goal like there is in a sports game, where there's a goal and a time that runs out.
And there are more and more, It's funny that you mentioned this, because if you go to the central markets or to the Whole Foods markets and these places, you will see that there's probably like 4 or 5 more brands of cola, of cola, refreshment. Yes. There are already. And if you go, actually, I remember when I was still living in Latin America 11, 12 years ago, there was actually a very, very popular soda brand that was from Peru that was competing head to head with both Pepsi and Coca-Cola. And that was, again, 12 years ago, and they started 20 plus years
I'm in
ago.
agreement with that. I think it's, if your mother and father competed, you wouldn't be here.
Exactly.
You got to work together.
Which ends up, which eventually takes you to a place where, okay, so how can I collaborate as opposed to compete?
I agree.
Maybe so that's why there are so
very
many
similar
ways.
There. I'm building out a thing called the Synergy Collaborative, because that's what it is. It's working together, figure out how can we don't want to take and share the pie, but let's make a bigger pie.
So let me tell you something. So every time I speak about the main mistakes that entrepreneurs make when they start their own journey, collaboration is one of the main mistakes. Number 1, because it's a blind spot for them. And number 2, because they are afraid of it. And number 3, because they're not able to do it. They don't know how to do it. It sounds crazy, but if you analyze it, and you said it great, Magic Brad, we are not taught on how to collaborate. How many subjects did you have? How many periods did you have in your elementary or middle or high schools about collaborating? What's the right way for collaborating?
Our brains are functioning with the left and the right. So we already got that good and evil and the black and white and the separation. You got to realize that there is a gray.
Yeah, but also, again, how do you collaborate? How much do you give and how much do you expect in return? Mm-hmm. So it's funny, but I really believe that we are very bad in collaboration. Very bad.
I agree. you kind of wonder, okay, I put in, 100 hours, you only put in 70 hours, and how come we're splitting 50-50?
Yes.
So I understand our mind thinks logically like that.
Yes.
I had another question about who do you serve? Are you in a specific geographic area? Do you prefer the United States, North America, or is it global? Doesn't matter to you?
Yeah. So I've had in the last 5 years of my business, I've had clients in Europe, in Latin America, in Asia, in Australia, in Canada. So I have customers all over the place. So when it comes down to helping companies go global, there's really, I take clients from almost everywhere in the world. Right now, actually, I'm working on two projects, and one of them is in Asia, like large expansion projects. And there's really no geographical origin. Obviously, I have a very important footprint here in the Dallas area because I'm here. So there's a lot of executives that know me and know who I am, right? Because they see me around. But my clients really come from anywhere in the world because of the online world.
Because some of the things that I'm working on, it's hard for me to work with someone over in Singapore or Bali, Indonesia, because the calendar is so flip-flopped. We're going to meet on Monday, but guess what? It's Tuesday there.
Yeah.
So I try and stay in the central time zone as much as I can, but to each his own, Yeah.
I just had a conference call video conference call at 9:30 a.m. here in Central, and it was really late at night for them. But we try to compensate. We try to do like late for me, late for them, late for me, late for them. So we try.
I like the way you operate because it's kind of doesn't matter, because over on the other side of the planet, you got early morning people and you got late night people. It depends on the vibe and stuff. So it sounds like you're very open to whoever wants to work with you.
I am.
Done. Yeah.
That's true. So yeah, I mean, typically, I have to say I work a lot of hours. A good day for me is a day in which I have a 2 or 3 hour break in the middle.
Okay.
So I see my day in 2 big chunks, really, because of that. So, so I have a big chunk in the morning, starting really early. And then I have a big chunk, let's say after 5, I have another big chunk of, Asia is waking up and Europe is going to sleep, so.
What would be some of the key words that you would use for when people are looking for you, if they're searching you out?
Yeah, international expansion, international exposure. I am an influencer, so actually I'm a very strong business to business influencer or business to consumer, because the profile of the 27,000 connections I have on LinkedIn, I told you before, I engage with more than 1,500 every single week. So because of the nature of what I do on LinkedIn, I'm an influencer there. So I am a LinkedIn strategist, a LinkedIn influencer.
Okay.
Let's say a global expansion. Those would be the keywords.
Yeah, LinkedIn is a whole nother world. I got a friend locally here that wrote a book on it. He calls himself the LinkedIn rock star, Mike O'Neill. I don't know if you know that name.
I've heard his name. Yes.
He's definitely a
Mike O'Neill. Okay.
Lives here in Minneapolis, used to be out in Denver, but he's really heavy into LinkedIn Navigator and helping lead generation for his clients. That's what
that's good.
Generation through LinkedIn.
I do a lot of that. Magic Brad, a lot.
It's a big world out there, Angel. It's a big world.
Yeah, it's a big world, but it's becoming smaller and smaller.
Well, I think it's important to, sometimes niche down. Myself, I'm working on what I call narrowcasting rather than broadcasting.
Yeah.
Trying to stay within the central time zone so that we're all working on the same time frame. And in the event industry, so I'm specific to the event industry, ideally right here in the Twin Cities. So suppliers of events and people that plan events. So I'm pretty niche down, but inevitably you get into this, oh, that looks interesting, I should sell that software to real estate agents, and you get lost sometimes.
Yeah.
You gotta put the blinders on and stay focused.
Yeah, I agree.
I have a hard time with that.
Yeah.
So tell us, how do we get a hold of you if someone says, that sounds interesting, I want to expand my business globally? How do we get a hold of that Angel guy?
Thank you. Absolutely. So it's very easy. As I said before, I'm actually very active online. So it's going to be, if you Google my name, you will see all my social media outlets and posts every single day,
Right here, Angel Rebo.
Thank you. Yeah, that's my LinkedIn profile.
Right
Thank you.
there, but it looks like that, that's where you go.
Exactly.
All
Thank
righty.
you.
Well,
So
I
you can go
will-
to LinkedIn, but the easiest way to reach out to me directly is through my email address. Every single day, I answer every single message. I have a team behind me. Otherwise, it wouldn't be possible. My email address is very simple. It's Angel, like my name, Angel from Heaven, right? ANGEL, and then at angelrebo.com altogether. Angel Rebo, my last name is spelled like RIB as in boy O.com. Again, Angel at angelrebo.com.
That is easy. 4 letters, Rebo.
Yeah, very easy. Very easy.
Well, Angel, I'm going to sign this off and then beam it up to
Thank
the
you.
universe and propagate it out to that
Thank
global international world, and we'll see if we can hook some fish.
Magic Brad, it's been a pleasure to be here. Thank you for the opportunity to be, in front of your audience and to be able to have this conversation. I really liked it and enjoyed it. As you said, it's very natural. I think that it's people are really want to see like or listen to authentic conversations with no hidden agendas nor anything. Just being yourself and myself and being ourselves here, trying to inspire and everybody listening to us. Obviously, thank you very much for being with us today.
I agree. I think a lot of the business gets closed on the golf course or at the watering hole as opposed to in the seminar room.
I agree.
Okay, Angel, thank you very much. Be well.
Thank you. You have a good day.
This is 𝐓𝐢𝐦𝐞'𝐬 with 9 minutes of creative wisdom podcast, where creatives share their wisdom. It is 6 questions in 9 minutes because creatives have a short attention span. So let's get to it.
I love that. I love that, Olga. Thank you.
In a few sentences, tell me who you are and what you do.
Yes. So this is Angel Rebo. My brand is the CEO of Confidant. I'm originally from near Barcelona, but I lived in Plano, Texas, north of Dallas. I've been here for the last 10 years. And what I do, basically, both corporate CEOs and established entrepreneurs, they hire me to bridge the gap globally for expansion and exposure as a way to accelerate the growth of their businesses. My life passion and purpose is actually my foundation. It's called Wisdom for Kids, or our foundation, where we help underprivileged kids in Latin America become entrepreneurs using their local resources. I consider myself to be the connector of the unconnected.
That's beautiful. What is your favorite part about being a creative leader?
I love creating. I mean, I always have those amazing ideas, So what I like the most, probably I would say, is like just having this epiphany and wanting to write down the idea and probably to like elaborate it a little bit more and make it happen, But that's a problem because you cannot you cannot create everything that you have in your mind. But I love having those amazing ideas.
I can definitely relate to that. I speak to a lot of creatives who will avoid the money side of their businesses. They'll pretty much do anything to avoid it. What are your thoughts on that?
Yeah, I think that we the entire formal education system does not give us really many chances to become acquainted with the realities behind money, what money really is. So I'm not surprised that then we struggle as we grow up and then we want to avoid it as something that we don't feel comfortable with. We don't know how to manage it. So I totally relate with that. And I think that it's very easy to solve just learning a little bit more about it, but we have to still be a little bit uncomfortable to be eventually comfortable with it.
Absolutely. You have to get uncomfortable to get comfortable with it. Love that.
Yeah.
Who are the creatives that you admire or have inspired you on your journey?
Yes, I would say that, well, there's been a few, and I think one of them probably was the author of a book called The Celestine Prophecy. That his name is James Redfield. That's one of them. Another one is definitely Tony Robbins, because when I went to his event, I really learned so many different concepts that have changed my life since I went there. And probably the last one is a very famous neuroscientist. His name is Dr. Joe Dispenza, because I mean, he has many books I like. There's one called Breaking the Habit of Being Yourself, which I think that I totally relate with it in the fact that we have this survival mode because we are, human beings and, we have a physical body and to protect ourselves, we have this survival mode that protects us. But at the end of the day, I think that this survival mode does not help us to be better creatives. That's probably why.
Beautiful. What is the one piece of wisdom or advice that other creatives should know?
It's funny how this mantra I use for my business and for my clients' businesses. It's take imperfect action now. Take imperfect action now. That's definitely the one I like to suggest to everybody, because we tend to stop doing things that would probably take us to places where we would be thriving and succeeding and testing other kinds of waters. That's definitely the one. I think that we put too much thought and we're looking for so much and too much perfection before we start taking action on a specific idea that we have. And I think that we as creators, that happens very often. I think that even if we take imperfect action, and it's only like for a short period of time, we start seeing other things. It's like if you ever go to a therapist, a psychology therapist, very often they're trying to like pull some, ideas or thoughts, experiences, traumas from your life. It's actually only takes to get to one of those traumas or experiences in your life to actually start, accessing to all the rest of them, and it has obviously, it has a reason from a physical perspective, a neurological perspective, that's the case. And I think that's very common in our lives, that when we are in the surroundings of a particular idea, thought, I think that that is much easier to actually pull the rest of them.
Absolutely. Now, the most important question of the podcast. Какая ваша любимая музыка? Or in English, what's your favorite music?
I was going to respond anyway. Let me tell you, I don't know what the language was. Unfortunately, I wasn't able to understand it, but I understood music. And music is very important in my life. I would say that depending on the moment, I like different kinds of music. For many years while driving, I was listening to classical music, but the music that definitely has changed the most my life is definitely, I would say, house, dance music, electronic music in general, because when I kind of I've been married twice. Well, the second one I'm still married, and I will be forever. But for the first wife, it didn't work as well. And since my first wife and the second wife, I started to actually go to clubs and to dance, and I had so much fun, and I discovered that I was having so much fun, and I was enjoying so much. Every single time I would be on a dancing floor, carving out those dancing floors in the world, that they really, it really literally changed the way I was conceiving my own leisure times, definitely. And still to this day, actually, I think it was last winter in Christmas, actually, my family bought me a DJ table, which was one of my dreams, to be able to actually mix all those themes, all those music pieces that I like so much. So music has represented something extremely important. I think that there's a lot of special things around music. I think that we underestimate music. It has a power in itself. And I think that we should be relying more on music. So that will be my answer. I definitely love music.
Beautiful. Well, thank you for being on. What is the best way for the listeners to connect with you?
Thank you. Yeah, it's very easy. I'm very present online. You can easily find me in any social media outlet because I post there every single day. The one in which I'm more present for myself and my clients is actually LinkedIn, the professional network, LinkedIn. And also, so you can send me a message there. I receive hundreds of them, and we respond, because I have a team behind me. We respond to those messages. But also, I would suggest that you write me an email. I also respond to all the emails I receive. And my email address is angel as in heaven, angel from heaven, right? ANGEL at angelribo.com. Ribo is my last name. It's spelled like RIB as in boy O.com. Angel at angelribo.com. And it's been a pleasure to be here with you, Olga. I'm still wondering what language that was before, but that's okay. And obviously, thank you. Thanks to be grateful for everyone who's been listening and watching us today.
Thank you so much for being on, Angel. I'm going to include all of that in the show notes, and that was Russian.
Okay, fair enough. Thank you. Nice to hear you speaking in Russia, Olga.
This is Olga Kirschenbaum with 9 Minutes of Creative Wisdom podcast, where creatives share their wisdom. Make sure you check out my blog at ragstorichesconsulting.com to get money insights you haven't heard before.
Welcome to the Biz Bros podcast. My name's Kyle Nelson, and I have my co-host here, 𝐓𝐢𝐦𝐫𝐝, and we have an awesome podcast episode for you with a very special guest that we have been looking very forward to having, Mr. Angel Ribot. He is the CEO Confidant. He's the founder of Divine Human Ventures and Wisdom for Kids. He's truly trying to make a difference in Latin America and helping kids become entrepreneurs with local resources. Angel, welcome to the show. We're excited to have you.
Absolutely.
Thank you. Thank you very much to both of you, Eli and Kyle, for having me today. And thank you, everybody listening to us.
Absolutely. So to kind of bring it back, Angel, we're young entrepreneurs here. We're always learning. We're always soaking up like sponges. And I feel like this conversation is going to set a great stage for us and kind of the big picture as a business owner and how we can make a difference in our community. So the topic for today that we're going to speak on is what is the responsibility of an business owner in our community specifically.
Amazing.
And how really our communities are run by business owners and how we are the ones that need to move, healthy, smart agendas forward to make sure that we're, for the basic good of humankind.
Absolutely. This is going to be good.
So Angel, could you kind of tell us about your kind of upbringings and how you got into entrepreneurship and the passion that you have behind, the differences that you're trying to make in the world?
Yeah, absolutely. Well, I was born a little bit far away from here, from Dallas, where I live today, north of Dallas, in Plano, Texas. I was born near Barcelona. And I think that's something that really defined my life since very beginning was that both my mom and dad, they wanted me to learn foreign languages, and I was learning French and English at the same time. So that started me on an international journey, I would say that. So very early on, I went to the UK to learn English. And then, when I was in college, I was literally having international internships every single summer. And fast forward, I've lived in 8 different countries. I've done business in more than 33 countries. I've helped more than 1,500 companies and their C-level executives.
Wow.
So that's why I ended up doing what I'm doing today. And, for 5 years already, oh my God, time flies. I started my own entrepreneurial journey and left corporate America. I set up 2 organizations that you very well described. One is Divine Human Ventures. I use actually that's the LLC, let's say, that's the corporation. My brand, as you very well said, it's the the CEO Confidant because of the reasons I just mentioned. And at the same time, I started my nonprofit, which is Wisdom for Kids, with which I help underprivileged kids in Latin America become entrepreneurs, because I had been doing business in Latin America for many years. Of those 33 countries, many of them are Latin American, and for the last 20 plus years, I've worked on those countries.
Wow,
Amazing.
That's awesome. Well, that's an amazing upbringing. Sounds like a great foundation.
Thank you.
For what we're going to talk about today.
Yeah, and I know that with your bio and your brand, and kind of your vision and passion, I know there's 2 different missions that you have in life that you talk about a lot. Do you kind of want to dig into those a little bit more so people kind of get the real background of who you are and why you do things?
Exactly. So I would say that besides what I already said, I'm considering myself to really to be the connector of the unconnected.
Okay.
I think that I have also inherited, just to give you a few ingredients of what I do, right? Besides what I already described. And also I think that I inherited the enthusiasm and the passion from my father. He really likes to have a very, he makes jokes all the time. He's very well known in the community, also in the business community in Spain. And I think that those 2 things allow me to actually make my passion and my enthusiasm contagious. And that's part of the starting point of the journey when I started working either with corporations and with entrepreneurs, because today I have 2 very distinct audiences, the entrepreneurs, the startups, the business owners, and the corporations, the C-level executives of those corporations.
That's awesome. Yeah, we talk a lot about personality types, and we've been really digging into that in recent podcasts. And I can definitely tell that you have that gravitating kind of contagious personality, which I think is one of the number 1 traits to have as a leader, as a CEO, to get a following. And especially if you can do it around your passion, which is really what it sounds like.
Right.
It's set up for success right there.
Yes. And I've always been like that, regardless. I have to say that at some point I was working too much. When I was in corporate America, I was working too much. Passion sometimes can be detrimental to what you do, because you like so much what you're doing that you you leave something behind. In this case, it was a little bit detrimental
Right.
because actually my wife wouldn't see me very often.
Yeah.
But you know, I think it's you learn throughout your life, right? I mean, you have to be really with the eyes and your ears open to realize what's going on around you, and then to adapt, you know, and to start moving forward from wherever you are at that point.
Yeah.
Absolutely. So let's dig in. So
Perfect.
the business owner and the community, they have a huge responsibility. They are the ones that are providing income to families, tax dollars to the government.
Yep.
But they're also the ones that are representing at every single level, whether it's a city council, maybe it's your chamber, maybe it's a networking group, maybe it's your church, whatever it is. The business owner typically are the ones that are loud and proud about moving a community forward. And I know that you kind of have a passion with helping these business owners kind of discover a message on how to do that. So what do you feel like are some of the key things as a business owner in our community that we should be responsible for, and kind of taking a step forward and try to fighting for, and really having the mindset of the better good of our community?
Let me share with you something which is actually it's very related to your question. It's something that I learned on an event with Tony Robbins.
Oh,
Okay.
wow.
That's something that changed my life forever. I mean, it seems obvious, but until someone of his caliber tells you, you don't really realize. So if you really want to make an impact in this world, and you want to have, let's say you want to have you were to be free financially, and you want to really have a lot of wealth and have a very nice life, the amount of wealth that you are able to actually put together in your life is directly related and proportional to the number of people that you are able to impact. And so that's extremely relevant and extremely important for everybody of us. It doesn't matter if, you know, I have a small company. We are 11 people in total.
Yeah.
But business owners have really small teams, but they make a big impact in the community because the community goes to their businesses, and those businesses actually keep the community alive. There's a lesson I learned from my father. Regardless of the deals he worked in throughout his life, he was the CEO of a large food industry conglomerate and everything. All the time, he was measuring his success in the number of families that he was able to actually hire. So he would always count his success as, I'm able to help today this number of families. And he was talking about the number of families directly of his employees, and the number of families in the community that he was benefiting or helping indirectly. So and I also think that we have been extremely blessed, regardless of what we might think sometimes, that in the last 12 months where the world has completely changed, what's the power? Isn't it more obvious than before? The power of the local business owners, the ones that you see every single day.
Yeah.
Isn't it relevant more than ever before that keeping these businesses alive is so much part of our community? How many business owners have stopped seeing because they have been struggling with their businesses, so they've even, closed their businesses. You know, so to that point, putting that in perspective, every single business owner in the community, regardless of the size of the company, regardless of the number of people that they hire, or even if they are in themselves, just by sending out there, just by putting their value proposition, the service or the product that they produce, that they deliver, just by putting it themselves out there to their potential clients, they are already starting to change the community. Okay, so that's extremely important. Moving forward, you probably heard me saying many times, take imperfect action now. Take imperfect action now. Business owners in the local community, they are the experts of doing that. Because, regardless, they want to do stuff. They want to do really, obviously they're doing it because they're investing money and they want to put that money to work, that money to work and everything. But at the end of the day, what they really want to do really is to make their community better, because all of us, we have the responsibility to making our community better. Okay. So I believe that by making or being conscious that they are really connectors of everybody in the community, to being conscious that the wealth that they can put together is always reliant on the relationship that they have with every single partner, supplier, or client that comes to their business, is extremely important and extremely relevant. I'm a very big proponent of soft skills. I really believe that when you start your business, your attitude is everything. Not everybody is an extrovert or an introvert. It doesn't matter. Everything is your attitude.
Totally. I agree 100%. And I agree, you know, at that local level, that's where things really get started. That's where things get moved forward.
Absolutely.
You know,
I think
grassroots and,
yep.
and bootstrapped.
within the, yeah, if you're a part of a community that you're prideful of, you are going to be loud about that. And if you can support local, you know, made in the USA, even as simple as just like the community of the United States, I think people will grab onto that more.
I think really diving into this a little bit deeper, and not to get political at all, but the past 6 to 12 months, there's been so much division between everybody on a community level, state level, and national level, and everybody living in fear. Whether it's your employees, your vendors, your partners, your clients and customers, or just the community, you know, as a business owner, we need to move forward and be the light in the darkness right now. How do you feel a good way to like bridge that division so we all can come together? And I don't want to say bipartisan, but like it doesn't even have to be political views. It's just coming together and moving forward for the better good. I mean, do you have any kind of comments on that, or?
Oh, totally. I mean, I was having chills as you were telling me this. Literally, I was having chills. Yeah. So because for the last 12 months, I've been asking myself consistently, what is my role as a public speaker, as a public figure, as a business owner, as a business leader? What is my role in this? Right. Because, you know, it's very easy to get aside. It's extremely easy. And let me tell you something else. When we are being raised by our parents, as much as we love them, unfortunately, we are taught to be judgmental, and 100%. That's who we are. You know, there's a very famous neuroscientist that says that the secret of our lives is actually becoming, you know, or breaking the habit of being ourselves.
Yeah.
Wow. Breaking the habit of being ourselves.
Yeah.
So that's that's so powerful. So right now, the easy thing is to take a side. I know that you have these very strong feelings and very strong beliefs, and every single time, and I'm talking to everybody listening to us today, everybody, have been raised, you know, with the, you know, the best parents possible, with the best tutors possible. You know, you are where you are today. And I know that as soon as you listen some message out there, you start taking a side. I know that. I'm the same way. And you know why? Because we are wired that way.
Right.
Because, you know, while we were growing up, all those ideas, including, you know, religious beliefs, political beliefs, we were wiring our brain. And every time that we listen to something that ignites that idea, you know, not only our neurons fire together, but also there's a series of chemicals. This has been scientifically studied. I'm not making anything up. Yeah. All those chemicals inside our body immediately are being produced. And guess what? A complete series of reaction goes out to the world from us as human beings. This is exactly what's going on. So guess what? We have to start coming out of that addiction of those chemicals that are being triggered every single time we hear something or we see something that triggers that reaction. So what is our role? Number one, understand that this has a reason, that there's fear out there and people are in fear. So the reaction of these people, we have to understand it, and we have to say, from a place of light, as you know, some people like the term, like, you know, light workers or light warriors, you know, and I like that. I like that expression, that we indeed are the people, and we all can be this. We all, not only us, podcasters, hosts, or guests. No. We are all the light of the community. We all have the ability to be in the middle and say, okay, so I understand that you're suffering. I understand that you're having this reaction. I mean, I see your anger. Right. But in reality, every time you see someone taking sides, everybody is inside of them. They want to find a place of safety.
Yes.
You know, we learn everything in boxes. We are put in boxes. So in order to feel safe, we are inside a box, and we try to go to the box all the time. So what can we do, all of us, to try to bring all these people together, to reconnect everybody? Number one, acknowledge that they might be in pain. Why? Because we have acknowledged that there's a lot of fear out there. Right. It is what it is. For whatever reason, it is what it is. We acknowledge that there's this fear. Let's be compassionate. Let's try to understand the other much more than before. We really have to make an effort. It's a reality. We really, for the first time in humanity, we have to make a much effort. Much important effort, much stronger effort than before. Because at the end of the day, we all want the same thing. Yep. You know, how many local business owners I have seen angry with me for whatever reason, because maybe I was doing something that I wasn't mindful of during the last 6 to 12 months.
Exactly.
Many, and I didn't want to hurt them, but
Right.
they felt, they felt that they were attacked. And I said, I'm sorry, I apologize. And then it's a matter of, again, let's go back to where we were before. Let's not forget that I was coming here to your business for the last 5 years, and we were, we were already in a place of peace, and we have already proof tested that we can live in peace regardless of where we stand.
Exactly.
You know what I mean? So understanding what the position is, and then really have a conversation. Let's try to have tough conversations. Okay, you are there. I'm not sure if I'm there, but I understand you. Let's keep on working together. Let's keep on making this community better. Let's keep on delivering, what your product and your service, you have been doing it forever. Let's keep on doing that, and let's keep moving forward. Because again, the world is not going to finish today nor tomorrow. The world is going to keep on going around and turning around regardless of what we do. Let's have a better, let's have, let's say, how to say this. Let's put a new set of rules of engagement. Let's put it this way among us.
Absolutely. Yeah. I think in the local community, I totally agree. I think it's starting with why. Like, let's talk about it. Let's get it out there. And then let's work backwards and try to figure out a plan. And let's let business owners lead that, because the business owners in the community are the ones that I think people will follow. Again, there's deeper roots. There's deeper roots into families, and why you're in business. And I think that's a lot about what we're talking about today, is the responsibility that you have within your community. You're supporting them. Let's let the business owners lead.
I think it's taking the judgment out of it. And letting people be themselves. People don't change. They're going to be themselves, and building a bridge to connect it. I mean, that's really what it's all about.
Exactly.
I can't change the way you feel or think. You can't change the way I feel or think. But if you're non-judgmental about it and just accept it and move forward and build that bridge of connection in our community, I think is huge. And the strides we would take as a whole would.
Totally. And I think that's a lot easier said than done, with different factors out there, like social media and stuff, driving people in different ways. Again, back to the bipartisan, not political at all, but that is what's pulling people. And to be able to break their judgment is tough, but you have to kind of give and take. This is good. But I do believe that business owners are kind of the root of everything. They are really they are the heartbeat of the community.
I agree. And they make a living. Number one, let's not forget, they risked their capital, right? They risk their money. They put their money where their mouth was, and they are delivering on their promise. I mean, they took the risk.
Exactly.
Okay, so we're being served by them because they took the risk, and we genuinely want them to be in the community 100%. No matter what.
100%.
We want them to be there. So, I'm not saying it's easy. What I'm trying to say is that why don't we all try together to develop a critical thinking? Why don't we try to see things from a different perspective? And also, there's many movies out there that explain many things. You just mentioned social media. And again, we love social media because we are there all the time, and it helps us with our businesses, and it helps us with our outreach and with our audience, etc. But at the same time, there's high up executives from those corporations that left those corporations. There's many movies out there. I would recommend, obviously, The Social Dilemma. Go there, watch those movies, and you will see what's happening in, behind the scene. And that's okay. Again, everybody's trying to, to do as much as they can with the value proposition that at some point they started. But that doesn't mean that we don't have to develop a critical thinking. Exactly. And also we have to have our own point of view, or our own frame of reference. And I think that that's extremely important, because you just said the answer is inside. The answer is inside, and it's really inside. It's really inside. So it's really your commitment to say, I'm changing this now, regardless of what happens around us. I'm changing this now, and I'm going to be that bridge. I'm going to rebuild those bridges that were burned for the last 12 months. I can do that, and I'm going to be that because I'm already a part of the community.
I couldn't agree more. I think that's huge. I think especially too when there's these different communities that people are starting to gravitate towards. Texas is a really big one. Austin, there's all these people starting to gravitate there, regardless of why they're going there. But the new businesses that are coming there, they are supplying jobs. They are taking that risk to move there. they really should have the responsibility to provide for this new community, give something new, bring something to this community that might be a little bit different. And I don't know, it also is welcoming to bring a new business in. So as a community.
Absolutely. I think we really got pretty deep with the responsibility of the business owner.
We really did.
How do you kind of see things? I mean, just out of curiosity, how do you kind of see things heading forward? Do you think there is a movement that is kind of focused on this, on the community business leader making, that first step? Or do you think it's something that we need to all be loud about and taking that step and doing it and joining together? I mean, do you hear, because I know you're on podcasts all the time, you've worked with all these CEOs. What are you hearing out there? Are most people agreeing, or?
Yeah, I mean, I would say number one, people do not really talk massively about this. They don't. They just don't.
Okay.
So I'm not being asked very often about what's going to happen moving forward. But I mean, the fact that maybe the podcast host don't ask me, it's not 100% of the answer to your question, right? Probably when I nonstop have meetings with business owners, and I mean face to face, including face to face, and C-level executives of large corporations consistently, like every single week, many of them. Okay, so everybody acknowledges that things are changing, that there's uncertainty, and some of them, I would say the most conscious leaders understand or acknowledge that things will have to be done differently in the future. So we cannot keep on doing the same things the same way. I have a very good friend and business partner, and he always say that typically that the only problem that companies have is to do the same wrong thing more efficiently. Time and time again. So I think that right now we have become aware that really with the snap of a finger, 7.5 billion people can be receiving the same message. That has happened, right? Again, not trying to be judgmental. It's just the reality. If that's a possibility, there's a reality that things can change in the snap of a finger. So we really have a responsibility, and we have to start talking about this, and we have to start thinking about what is the model of society that we want. Okay, so is everything working fine? I mean, do we want to keep on buying the groceries to a local store or to a big massive national chain or chain? Excuse me. Do we want to have the choice of going for one or another? Do we want to go to large restaurant chains or to local, or we want to have a mix of both? I think that the answer is, again, how often do we build bridges?
Right.
And how do we build a world in which we all thrive? We all thrive. We're all given, I believe that unless we take action personally, again, without politics involved, unless we all take action immediately, we cannot thrive in our lives. I think that we all have to take some sort of action. We all have the choice of taking action, and we all should be taking action. We all have this energy. We are beings of energy. We all can start creating anything. We are creating something now. There's going to be people listening to our conversation today that they will say, yes, exactly. I really, that's the message I needed to learn. Or maybe they're not in agreement, and that's okay. And maybe they see it differently. But again, the thing is, let's develop this critical thinking that will allow us to say, okay, well, maybe what has happened for the last 12 months is not normal, but it's not normal in many other senses. How can I prevent that from happening in the future? Or how can I be a better community leader from where I am today to bring everybody together?
Amazing. Wow. That is amazing. It's a great way to kind of bundle things up as well.
I hope that I hope our little conversation here on this podcast can make movements and strides, and hopefully spark one person and to make the domino effect begin. I mean, it's huge. It just takes just doing it.
It does. Well, great.
I encourage you. I encourage you to keep on asking the questions.
Thank
because
you.
At the end of the day, also Tony Robbins says the same thing. Actually, he says that the quality of our lives is the quality of the questions that we ask ourselves.
So true.
So
love that quote.
Tony's man.
I'm gonna go write that one on the board. Love it. All righty. Well, as we wrap up here, Angel, where can our guests, our audience find you at?
Absolutely. Yeah, they can easily find me online, and I post every single day. Maybe the outlet where I am more often on is LinkedIn, for obvious reasons, because both my clients and my clients' clients are on LinkedIn. So you can go there and look for Angel Ribo spelled like R-I-B as in boy O. My brand is the CEO Confidant, And I'm gonna actually give you also my direct email address, either my team or myself. We always respond to all the emails. And my email address is angel@angelrebo.com, angel@angelrebo.com. And as I said, I always answer, either my team or myself answer all the emails. So thank you very much for having me, Kyle and Eli. And thank you to all the audience.
Yeah.
If they want to reach out, they know where to find
The audience.
all of us.
Yeah, it's a pleasure and honor to have you on our
really is.
podcast. And like you said, make sure to check out Angel, follow him, and give him a connection on LinkedIn since that's where he's busy. And if you haven't yet, please subscribe to our podcast, Biz Bros Podcast, and check us out on YouTube. Well, Angel, thank you so much, and hopefully we can follow up in 6 months, have another conversation, and see what movement's been heading forward.
Whenever, I'll be here for you. Thank you very much.
Awesome, man. Thank you so much. Have a good one.
Have a good one.
And you too.